We are activating your unique self-discovery one show at a time. The Orchard of Wisdom Self-Discovery podcast at your fingertips, just waiting to inspire and invite you in discovering just how awesome you really are and how to navigate through life in joy, enrichment, personal abundance, in mind, body, spirit, heart, and soul. All the people we bring you are here to serve you on your journey of life. Do enjoy our next show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to Their Story Matters right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com, soon to be selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful, exuberant, extraordinary, and you are please sit back, have a glass of wine or a scotch in hand. We are going to be talking so much about this one woman today, her lineage, her artistry, the people that she's met. Just hold on, because we're about to take a roller coaster of intrigue, total intrigue. And this is Kimberly Butler. And I can't wait when I met her on this wonderful Dead Drummond network and I heard her speak, it was like lift the jaw up off the ground. I have to interview this woman, and I was waving my hands up in the Zoom thing. It was like
I was thrilled.
And so I'm delighted to have her here today. You're not going to believe what she's accomplished in her life. You're not going to believe who her relatives are. She's writing a memoir right now, and she's unraveling all of that, and it's quite extraordinary. It's also extraordinary when you kind of look at the DNA threads of consistency that are passed down from one to the other. But she is a wonderful photographer. How did she get into that? Who has she photographed? Well, if you go to her site, name the star, she's pretty well interviewed them and photographed them. She's also done some incredible other type of work, like personal work of Alison Opierland, banned books, Jerusalem, Syrian refugees, and Jordan, and Neil Gaiman, and The Art of Fear, lots of commercial work, lots of celebrity work, and just the people that she's made friends with along the line. And a lot of that is, you'll understand as we talk today, she's a door opener. There is no door closed to her. And it's not that because she's so important, it's that she's so authentic that everybody wants to get to know her. So they just open the door. Come on in, let's have a chat and see where this goes. And that's the kind of person she is, my kind of person. I love somebody who is like that. And we have so much to start. Let's just take it all off on the celebrity photography at the present moment.
Okay.
You know, how you open up the door to that one, because one thing that stuck in my mind from the talk we had before is that you were the first photographer for women for Sports Illustrated, which was very much a man's world.
Yes.
You've broken barriers so completely with your photography, even just in the way that you started. Okay, we'll start there. How did you start?
We'll start there. Okay, so what I did is I first went, after I graduated NYU film school, I decided to be a photographer and not go into film, because I like the idea of owning my own business, which my mother had always encouraged. So I've been all these years owning my own business, never having a boss, only my clients, which is wonderful. You're in, you're out, you do the job, and that's that. And I've had clients 20 years, which I'm very proud of, because that means that every job had to be great, but that they also liked working with me, that I was respectful to everyone. I worked for two photographers, one an advertising photographer, a great photographer by the name of Stan Fellerman, who did advertising. We're still great friends. He taught me all about lighting and all the things that are entailed in working with it. Then I decided to become a celebrity photographer. And I saw a picture of Harry Benson, the famous Scottish photographer that came over with the Beatles, on the cover of American Photographer. So I wrote his wife a letter, who ran his business, and I said, look, my grandfather's a Queen Anne Cameron Highlander. You should hire me. That was the PS. And they did. But did he believe that women couldn't carry equipment? So for 6 months, I filed.
Got to start somewhere, right?
Well, he'd come home and I'd go walking by him carrying a chair. Hi, Harry. But and at the same time, I'm building my clients myself. Yes. So that was my last, because I got two full-time jobs for 3 years. So then I broke free. and started shooting my own stuff. And brick by brick, which I explain to all my interns and people that work with me, is how you build a business.
Yeah.
One day, one piece at a time. Don't be so anxious. You're not going to be me.
Right.
You've got to add, 10, 15 years, maybe 20.
Yes.
You want to be me.
But, you're taken. They've just got to be them. Right? And put in the same due diligence,
You must do that. I worked hard, very hard for many, many, many years. So I just started showing my book. And I met a woman by the name of Nancy Lieberman, who was a famous basketball player. And she said, why don't you call ABC? We're going down there to do the Superstars. And if you're going to be there, you could take some pictures. And that was my first marketing lesson from Nancy. So I called ABC, and I happened to live in the town in Florida that they were shooting. So I had friends to stay with because they weren't going to pay me.
Right.
And
exactly.
Once I shot that for them, I became over a very, very quickly one of their number one photographers.
Door opener, right? The door opener.
Sorry?
You're a door opener. You're not afraid to open doors. You do what you need to do in order to open up those doors.
You knock. You knock. If they answer the door,
yes, exactly.
Then you're in.
Yeah.
But it's all about respect.
Yeah.
And it's all about, like you said, being real. Now we all say authentic, but I'm just real. I'm just myself.
Yeah.
And as I've grown and I've matured, I've become more of that person. I don't try to be two different people.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
It is. Oh my God. It's confusing.
It's like, who am I now? So
yeah.
I just decided, let me just be me. So whether it's a president of the United States, of which I've met 5, or it's somebody who works in a school and is teaching chess in Harlem. Actually, I treat them with more respect.
Yes. But when we're talking authenticity, I'm
That's
real.
It. Hi, how are you doing? But I'm very impressed with a lot of the stories that I did. So I had done a lot of sports portraiture because of how I started it at ABC. So I started sending out postcards. I sent out 500 postcards to athlete magazines and sports magazines all over the country. And I got one call, Sports Illustrated.
That's all you needed.
500 postcards. Everybody listen to this lesson.
Yes.
500 postcards, and I got one call. And they needed a woman.
Right. Exactly. But there you lies in the number games. It's not just like put all your eggs in one basket, spread them around.
Never.
And it's and
I
you
never do that with my career.
Right. And the thing is, sometimes you might just be planting seeds. They can't use you right now, but down the road, you've made an impact and they'll come back to you. So if something doesn't happen in the moment, it's okay.
It's amazing. It's amazing. We must have been like in a former life knew each other, because I'll use the expression. It's an American expression, Johnny Appleseed. I'll just go around and sprinkle seeds everywhere.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden a phone call.
And see which one grows. And see which one grows.
Take a look at my site. Boom.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing is patience and due diligence, right?
Yes.
But you've got to have patience if you're in a hurry. People sense the anxiety. I'm in a rush. Well, where are you in a rush to? I prefer that you're present.
Right.
You are well, one of the gifts that really comes across with you. You are extremely present in yourself. You are with yourself wherever you go, no matter what you're doing. And I think that's what people pick up. You're not there on an agenda. You're not there to be over there. You are present. And it's something that people long to be, and not everybody knows how to be. But it's something that is so intricately you that I can see why they open up the door. You turn up and you are present. So they know that you're going to be engaged in the moment, and they can be engaging with you, and there are no games.
Yes, no. When I photograph someone, there's a dance that happens. And, they're all talking about this AI photography now. And, and I'm like, yeah, but the element that's missing is that interaction that happens between me and the person.
Yes.
Where all of a sudden they're completely relaxed. And I've only got 10, 15 minutes if they're a big star.
Mm-hmm.
or some other kind of shoot. So I have to very quickly make them feel comfortable so they'll drop that wall and let me
Yeah.
get the shot of their most authentic self.
Yes. Yeah, it was actually funny this last weekend. It's my grandson's second birthday today. And
Oh,
this,
happy birthday,
yeah,
buddy.
yeah, my little gobble gobble. And this last weekend, we celebrated his birthday, his dad's birthday, my other daughter-in-law's birthday, and my daughter's baby shower. So it was a crazy weekend. And my one daughter-in-law said, I'm putting up pictures up on the wall of, or, everybody in their 20s. Can I have some pictures? And so I took some along from way back when, 48 years ago, to my 20s, and I said, choose one. And the one they chose was kind of when I had got out of bed and my hair is all ruffled and I'm just giggling. And that's the one
I
they
love it.
wanted.
But that's you.
Yeah, it's me.
That's you.
Yeah, giggle pop.
Yeah.
Yes.
If after 2 minutes they're not looking beyond your physical self,
Yeah,
you're not doing your job.
right.
You're
Yeah.
not being your most authentic self because they're going to respond to that.
Yeah, and anybody can take a pretty picture at some point, like especially celebrities, because they're so, trained to put
Yes.
on that look. But it's what's behind the pretty face.
Right.
That's what we want. And it's when you can look at a picture and go, oh my God, this is telling a story. I'm
Exactly.
reading so much into this. And how you capture someone that's in the middle of a moment or in the middle of a thought. Maybe the lighting isn't that great, but you're capturing something. And that is what we're drawn to. We want to see beyond the facade. We
Right.
want to see the story behind.
Right. And that's what I strive to. And
Mhm.
that all happens in those magical moments of first meeting somebody and making them feel very much at ease.
But
And
again, that is your gift to do that because you invite people to be present with self because that's what you are with
yeah,
yourself.
I'm here. I'm here.
Yes.
This is me.
Yeah.
And, a
You're not
lot of
wasting
people,
time.
no, no, no. And a lot of people walk in with an attitude.
Yes.
I actually had some LA assistants write to me and say, thank you for being so cool and so nice
Hmm.
because they were used to being abused and yelled at.
Yes.
And I remember those days, and
Uh-huh.
I'm like, you don't have to treat anybody like that. There will be a line if you cross it where you need
Yes.
to leave the set, and I won't hesitate. But otherwise, let's all just do our job and be nice and kind to everyone.
And
It's
if you want
free.
longevity in anything, sprinkle dust of kindness and respect will keep you being remembered.
I
You don't
want
want to
my
be remembered for
legacy.
being an a-hole, right? You want to be remembered.
Exactly, exactly. A few of the people that I work with, everybody says,
Mm.
oh, he's such a so and so. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I don't want to be remembered for
No,
that. Everyone has seen my images, they'll live on, whether they know it's me or not. But the
right.
people around me, the people that have met me, the impression I put on my children, my godchildren, that is my legacy.
Yes. Yes. And the reason, we always say the compliment is referral and callback. And, if you are referred and you're called back, then it's, we're going to that big word, trust. I trust she'll get the job done. I
Yes.
trust that she knows how to bring the best out in someone. I
Yes.
trust that she's not going to come in there with the ego.
Oh,
She's going,
no.
right?
No, 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 no,
She's
no, no,
going to
no, no,
come in
no.
there channeled, ready to go.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because lately I've been thinking a lot about that. And I had a very horrible childhood where I was, it ended with me being dumped into an orphanage when I was 7 because my father had post traumatic stress disorder. My mother self medicated. It wasn't working. The priest that married them put me into the orphanage.
How nice. Hmm.
And yeah. And my self esteem was just demolished.
Yes.
I mean, I was hated in the orphanage. I was one of the few, most of the kids were not like me. My father was very brilliant. I was highly educated at home. I did not fit in.
Hmm.
And when I went to school, the school was backed up to the orphanage. So
Hmm.
everybody knew that's where I lived.
Right.
So I was treated
Exactly.
badly by the girls at school, all
Of
the
course.
mean girls. Oh, you don't have a
Hmm.
mother and father, you this, you that. So I could not win. I could not win.
No.
So I grew up with very, very low self-esteem. I went and I got help when I was about 2021, graduating from NYU. And I remember the psychiatrist, I said, when will I start to like myself and feel whole in myself? She says, when you start to be successful at whatever it is you're going to do. And then I became tremendously successful. So what's happened now is I've landed somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
My ego is under control. I don't let it dominate, and I don't stand to let anybody else dominate it on my set.
Right. Right.
Okay. And I landed somewhere in the middle, in a very, very healthy place in terms of the ego. If you read My Art of Fear, there's a scene where my ego is burnt off.
Right.
My Art of Fear is a photographic memoir, and my ego is burned off.
I hear you there. I understand what you're saying there, because when you go so far the other extreme, I was a sickly child, so therefore, and I missed a great deal of schooling, and it was just maybe she'll make a good marriage, but she's never going to amount to anything. So, for a very long time, it's like I'm not worth anything. I'm too dumb. I'm too this. I'm too that. But I was also incredibly intuitive and instinctual and channeled. And in that, I was the wisdom. So people came to me for that wisdom, even though half the time I didn't even know what I was imparting. But the other side of me was incredibly insecure, feeling I'm never going to live up to anybody's expectations, until I realized having low expectations on someone is actually beneficial. Because when you actually go and do something, it becomes a big surprise. And there isn't the pressure on you to be this, that, or anything else. I actually have the liberation just to be me and define who I am. Took a long time to get there, but eventually did.
That's interesting on a couple levels. I just, there was a fire in me that just always knew that I was meant for something.
Yeah.
I knew that I was different, that I was special, not better, but special.
You had a calling. You had a calling.
I had my calling was to make them all wrong.
Yes, love it.
That's why I named my book The Art of Fear, because I was scared like crazy knocking on these doors and making these phone calls. But I was determined not to be the loser that everybody, whether it was by action or actual verbal statements, had said to me that I would be.
Right.
And the funniest thing is now they all see my stuff all over the world, from grammar school and junior high school, and call me and say, "We always knew. We always knew." And I'm like,
yeah, right. Yeah.
Karma's a bitch.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. I think it's also great to get to that stage where other people's opinion no longer worries you.
No, I don't care.
Yeah. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm a Scotch drinker. You can have your beer. It's...
Yeah, no. I had a caretaker. My mother was dying of Parkinson's, and I was taking care of her. And the caretaker walked in one day, and she says, "You're micromanaging me." That wasn't supposed to be the deal. Meanwhile, I'm watching her every second.
Right.
But I was going to go back and forth to New York and shoot, and so I was all over the place. And she says to me, "I just don't like you." And I said, "I don't care."
Right.
And I heard myself say those words, and it was incredibly liberating.
Yeah.
I didn't say them in a nasty way.
Right.
I didn't put her down.
No.
I just didn't care. Yeah. It wasn't important to my psyche, my ego, my self-worth. It wasn't important to anything.
Right.
And you can leave now because you're fired.
Yes. Get the trust has been broken. Yeah. I
couldn't trust it with my mother. I heard her yelling at my mother.
No.
And that's when I
that's
got
what
to
you
see
applied
her.
For. No.
Her.
Yeah. No.
Nope. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. Coming, I think again from next week would be 11 years of me doing podcasts, and I've interviewed some incredible people who have been on some incredible journeys. And, the thing that is a common theme is those that have gone through the most suppression, the biggest obstacle to hold them back, or even literally kind of the cosmic 2x4 where they've become ashes and they have to rise like a phoenix. Those are the strongest people. The people with the most focus, the most determination, the most meaningful purpose, and the biggest contributors, because they've come from those ashes. They've come from that negativity. And it isn't, I'm going to necessarily prove you right or wrong, rather. It is more about, I am so much more than you can see me as.
Right. And it's amazing how many people what you're saying is true. How many people have had very, very difficult times and have overcome that to
Yes.
then go on to do great things?
Yes.
And I saw it was obviously a training moment
Yeah, exactly.
because I'm
Yes.
not afraid of anything now.
No, I
Unless
mean, they're
they have
just,
a
they're not
weapon.
failures, they're lesson
Okay,
learned.
no, but let me clear that up. If they have a weapon and I'm in the Middle
Right,
East or in
exactly.
Russia, they've got a weapon, I am extraordinarily diplomatic and never rude, so
Well,
we got to
those are
clear
the
that
set
up.
boundaries. Yeah. They're
But
the
there
kind of,
is something about suffering,
yes.
and that's what my art of fear is about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about looking fear in the face and say, you know what? I'm going to use all these chemicals that you're producing, the
Mm.
fear, the anxiety. These are all chemical reactions. I'm going to use that and pick up that phone. And I'm going to walk into the White House. I'm going to walk into the Kremlin. I'm going to walk into Chechnya. I'm going to walk into the refugee camps. And I just was myself, and everybody responded to that.
That is what everybody is striving to be in life, to be themselves, that is not defined by anybody else's expectation, but by the very truth, their core truth, their core heart, soul, and spirit, that knowingness of who they are, and
Yes,
just being who they are without anybody else dictating or trying to manipulate. And that is what everybody's striving for in life. So when you come across somebody that's in that strength of beingness, I
yes,
am what I am. I'm here to do this. I believe in what I'm capable of doing. I'm here um, because it not just the driving force or the fame or the fortune, is because it is my calling. It is my purpose. This is what I am here to do.
yes,
And all of that essence of who you are when you walk through a door is received before you even open your mouth. You've set the
yes,
stage. So then
yes,
people are more receptive to listen to
yes,
you.
yes. And I think it just started with me being really honest with myself
Yeah.
and having a tremendous amount of introspection to say, you know what? That little thing you do, you got to work on that.
Yeah.
This little thing you do, you got to work
Yeah.
on. That's not nice. This isn't nice. This isn't nice. Constant self examination and honesty with yourself.
Yes. And it's
That's what
not
I did.
beating yourself up. It's just calling yourself to order type of thing, right?
Listen, I had my psychiatrist said she didn't know how I put a sentence together, let alone built with the trauma that I lived through, let alone
Mm.
built a career that I built.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm like, okay, it was meant to be. It was my
Yes.
destiny that it all
Yes.
worked out the way it did. And I accept that and I forgive my parents
Yeah.
with very, very deep love and forgiveness. And
Well,
anybody
it's
that
where
really
they
hurt
were
me.
at the time, right? Is
Yes, yes.
I
They
mean,
my father went through the war. My grandfather went through the trenches in World War I. My mother had to grow up with a father like that.
yes.
I understand.
Yes.
And the conversations with her as she's dying, I'm so sorry. I said, about what?
Hmm.
Well, I said, you mean about the orphanage? And she said, well, that and, everything.
Hmm.
I said, don't be.
Yeah.
All is forgiven. And it made me who I am.
Exactly.
If I
What
had grown
yeah.
up, if I had grown up on the North Shore of Long Island, married to a guy, Biff, or whatever his name would be, and I'd be Miffy or Bunny or Muffin, and we'd be doing martinis at 5 because none of us had any purpose in life. And he had a mistress in the city.
Right, of
By the
course.
time I'm 60, oh my God, I would have thrown myself off a cliff on the North Shore out of just sheer boredom.
Exactly. Yeah, as I said, we'll get to your DNA heritage in a moment, but that DNA strength is in you. And I think is that there are certain people that are nurtured or molded and made into by their life experience. And there's certain people that it is very much the very structure of who they are. And they just need that avenue to become, to
Yes.
be who they are. My mother, um, they left India. He was a colonel in the Indian Army. And she was one of 8 surviving children. And they left India and went to England and went from, beautiful homes and servants to a little Punducky place. She was brought up to believe, she was 12 at the time, she was brought up to believe that her father had died. In her 70s, she met her father, who was told that she was an uncle. He'd had a nervous breakdown, post-traumatic stress, and was put in an institution. And because
Mhm.
it was so shameful and nobody talked
Right.
about it,
Right.
he was dead. And even as an adult, they never told her. And even when she met him and talked to him, they both had a passion and love for words. It was never brought up that this is your father, right? And
You know
it's
what I love about today? I love about today that I can turn around and say, they put my father away, my mother drank,
mhm,
I was beat up in an orphanage, this happened to me, that happened to me. And there's absolutely no shame. As a
none.
child, as
Yeah,
a child, I
I
sealed all
know.
that in. I was terrified all the time.
Well, you probably thought you deserved it because we do as children. What did I do wrong? How did I
Oh,
deserve
yes,
this? Yeah,
yes, yes, absolutely. That's what children do.
yeah.
And a lot of parents don't realize that.
Hmm.
Bad
No,
parents don't realize that.
yeah. Yeah, my dad was in the war. He was a squadron leader, a fighter pilot, and he died. He had his third heart attack at 40, and he died at
Oh,
45. And um,
God.
and I remember, going past his room after my mum came and told me, and I actually I'm glad you've gone, Dad. You couldn't cope with life. But being an 11-year-old, felt guilty, so I made myself cry. And then my mum and brother left me, and I went past my dad's room and I popped my head in to say goodbye. And then I went to my mum and said, God took the one that was the weakest and left the one that was the strongest. Because my dad just simply could not cope. It was the stiff upper lip. Get on with your life.
Oh,
Doesn't matter
yes.
what's
Oh, yes,
happened
darling.
before.
I
Yeah,
know. I
yeah, yeah.
know. The British. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So there was never
Yes.
any releasing and became toxic
Right.
marriage, toxic everything, hated working with his
Yep.
brother, and it just became one thing after
Yep.
the other, right? Manifested in heart
Yes.
disease. And this is, I think one of the advancements that we have made in life is that so many people are coming out saying, I suffer from depression, or I have this, or I have that, and
Mhm.
this is my struggle. And it is more that we're inviting compassion and empathy, not sympathy, compassion and
Exactly.
empathy and understanding, because look at how many stars we look at them flash and dash, they've got everything. Look at Twitch. Look at
Oh,
Twitch at Christmas. Who ever thought, right? And the next thing you know, they're gone by their own
right.
hand. And it's
Right.
like, we don't know what goes on behind.
Yeah. Did he reach out? That was my thing. Like,
Yes,
did he reach out? That hurt me
yes,
because there have been moments.
yeah,
There have been moments of,
yes,
9/11.
yeah.
9/11 was devastating for me.
Hmm.
Absolutely devastating. And there'll be more talk about that in my memoir, but those buildings came down and so did I.
Yeah.
And my husband's family is a fire department family.
Mm.
So my step grandson, who worked for me as an assistant, doing great assignments like Love Canal and the sets for Phantom of the Opera, was killed,
Oh no.
along with all my neighbors and friends and
Oh,
people I didn't know. It didn't matter. It was
yeah,
my city, my
yeah,
country. Why aren't you angry?
right.
And
Yeah,
that was me. I was
yeah,
ready to go. If I
yeah.
had been young enough, I would have enlisted
Hmm.
because that is in my DNA.
Yes.
And when you bring up DNA, I had a fifth grade teacher that became like my other mother.
Hmm.
My second, third, and fourth grade teachers called me incorrigible. I'd never be anything, right to my face. They were
Yes.
allowed to do that then.
Yes.
And I was dyslexic.
Me
Then I
too.
got to my fifth grade teacher, and we were best friends till she died at 90. And we would have the nature nurture argument
Mm.
always. And before I knew about my history, I said to her, no, it's in the nature. I can feel it. Look at
Hmm.
pictures of me at 2 years old. I'm like, I don't
Determination.
like this. I don't like this. I want another hat. You know. Um, so that still is a big argument. But now with this, I think it's epigenetics. They're
Hmm.
looking back and they're saying, wait a minute. There's a lot more than blonde hair and blue eyes
Yes.
and a high forehead.
Hmm.
There's memory, there's
Mm.
personality, there's things that we don't know yet, and I know that to be true
Yeah.
because when I told my friends of my genealogy, my good friends who
Hmm.
I'm really myself with,
You're right.
like really get crazy and silly, and they're like this. We're not the least bit surprised.
Right. Now that
And I
makes
was like,
sense.
oh my God. And now that I'm doing the deep dive, I'm
Yeah.
like, wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow, wow.
Hmm.
So it's been quite a journey, quite a journey.
Yeah. I'm going to go a little more far out there too, saying that as we have the DNA pattern that goes back, really, really very, very far when you can see the common thread. But I'm also very much on a past life one too. Um,
Possibly,
yeah,
yes.
I'm
Yes.
very much on the past life thing as well. And the reason I came here to do a particular job, and each lifetime I have done that, whether successfully or not, and spent the last 50 lifetimes torn and quartered, burnt at the stake, and everything else. So
Lovely.
this is my recovery lifetime of being
How
able to come
British and
back
rich
into
of
what I
you.
do. So it is interesting because we're so much more than what we are presently. And I think with that
Yes.
disconnect that people have from their heritage, from their DNA, from the many cultures or even past lives, you're leaving so much of yourself behind that if you incorporate it, it would help you actually understand who you are today and where you're going.
Yes. And I think the great things for people that have been enslaved,
Mm,
like in America, we take the African people, and of course, slavery goes back to the beginning of time.
yeah.
So, but the people living now, if they can do their DNA and they
Hmm.
find out where I'm 10 miles from my tribe, this is where my tribe was
Yes.
in whatever country, whether it was the Spanish Armada that got you or the British and the Americans, you can look back and find out who you are,
Yeah.
who you come from.
Yeah. And I don't
And
care what
I,
people say, there's a beautiful connection to that.
oh,
Oh, yeah.
there is, but that's not to say, when you look back, you're going to find good and you're going to find bad.
Yeah.
And that's something then you have to swallow that, which
Yes.
I've had to big time.
Okay, well, my claim to fame was the Leech, the artist, and Guy Fawkes on my father's side. On my mother's side, Standerly. So they were writers and judges and explorers. So, but you, you opened the door to your DNA, and a whole load of people came out. Let us
Well,
find out who they are.
it started with a cemetery in upstate New York and a wonderful genealogist by the name of Sylvia Hassenkoff. And it was listed Butler Cemetery. And I remember my great uncle bringing me up there one time to show me where the homestead was, and there was a graveyard there. But I'm 19.
Yeah,
So
what
as
is
I
the
got
interest?
older, I said, you know what, let me go. Well, first of all, I found an article online, but I had to go to the New York Public Library, which is you can join from any state. If they're banning books at your library, you can join from any state and get a New York library card, and they will send you the book. Okay?
Excellent.
Just give a
Good.
little shout
Good
out
to
to
know.
them.
No, definitely.
Yes.
Nobody has the right to ban a book.
No, no, no.
Right.
I do a lot of banned books. I do an interpretation of them.
Mm.
So I read an article by someone who had married a butler by the name of Margaret Coffin. And she wrote that Abel Butler had brought his family down by wagon and settled in Greene County, New York, because Connecticut was getting too populated. It's the 1600s or 1700s.
God,
No,
what would they think of it
it's
now?
the early 17th. Well, I'll finish. It's somewhere around the early to mid 1700s.
Hmm.
And she says he was the youngest son. His grandfather had come and was the youngest son of an English lord. And I went, hmm. Then I started to investigate. And what I uncovered was that my family fought in the American Revolution,
Hmm.
two of them, and just went off, left their families, fought in the Civil War. Also found those records, and they built this wonderful B&B business in the 1700s. It's a National Historic Landmark, and my graveyard is there, and we're currently working trying to get it cleaned up and fixed because somebody else owns the land, but they can't touch the graveyard.
Right.
And then that started, well, where did they come from?
Mm.
And there was an article on a certain magazine, and it says if you're a butler, chances are you're related to most of the presidents of the United States. And I'm like, wait a minute, let me get my phone. I'm calling this writer right now. And he is the butler specialist. And it turns out that he is a butler and has become a wonderful friend, family to me. And they did my DNA, the Mormons. Mormons have the biggest genealogical bank in the world.
Really?
Yes. And they don't run around in those outfits, and people have this vision of them, and they are magnificent, wonderful people. And they've got a tremendous library in Salt Lake City. You can go on and join at familysearch.org. It's free. And you can do your family DNA and go back. And of course, I had my buddy, and he went back, and the presidents was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. I like that.
Who are they? Who are they?
All of them.
How can you be with all of them, though?
Yes, I know. This is the first time I'm revealing that. Yes, so that's why you're going to buy my memoir. It's all of them.
Gosh, so that's a very interesting spider web then.
Yes, it is, because we come from, and this is just so wild, and I think I said this before about the Plagenays. I mentioned them before.
Yes.
My 32nd grandfather is Rollo the Viking, Duke of Normandy. And they did all the work. I have the list.
Yes.
He is the great-great-grandfather of William the Conqueror, becomes the first king of England. And then every king and queen of England, all the way down to the 1600s, when my grandfather is born, the youngest, and jumps to the colonies, are all my grandparents. So Henry, the second, Edward the First, Edward the Second, Edward the Third. There's a lot of baddies in there. All the guys that were involved in the War of the Roses, and they were the Plantagenets. If I'm saying that right, I'll get it right eventually. But they were probably, according to these documentaries I've been watching, are overwhelming with information. But Eleanor of Aquitaine is my grandmother, and she was magnificent. Magnificent. The women, the queens, they fought. They took their husband's position when he was off at wars, and they ran these countries.
Yes,
they were remarkable. And I just look at myself and I go,
it explains it.
This explains the temper. I do have a temper. I do have a temper, but I'm working on that.
Your determination, your focus.
My determination.
And your ability to see things and get it done, right? Your persistence.
Yes, I don't take no for an answer. If it's no, then I find another way around it. And then if it's finally no, then I just move on to something else.
Right.
It's just as important.
Yeah.
The other side of my family, of which is the presidential line, they ran Ireland for the crown for 700 years. And our family seat is Kilkenny Castle. 10 most beautiful castles in the world. So this has been a lot for me. And I'm slowly getting, and I've got to go see the castles.
Yes.
And my grandfather was the second chief butler of Ireland, and he has another castle. There's about 15 of them, because as they grew in power, they kept moving around.
Right.
So there's the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth.
Expansion.
And they're all the chief butlers. The butler was actually the person who served the wine at the coronation. So then it became a servant name. But actually, it became our family name. They changed it from its original name and changed it to Butler.
And what was the original name?
Theobald and Walter. And they were Plagenets. And so King John said, okay, I'm going to send my son, but I'm going to send my son with the butler backup. Right. So our family dominates ancient Ireland, Middle Ages Ireland. And just remarkable, the people that are descended from the Butler line. Everything goes like this.
Yes.
So there becomes thousands of cousins. With my royal ancestry, it's like zoom, I'm right down. with my presidential, it's all like this.
Zigzaggy.
You know, it's all, but they're all cousins, closer, not so close, but all related, all blood related. And, you know, it's like, Kim, you've got the blood of Abraham Lincoln. It just doesn't get any better than that.
No, no, definitely not. You know, that there has to be somebody in that when you discovered who they were, or what they stood for, or what they did, that became an aha moment for you, that a real identification.
There's a lot of baddies, and two of
Do
them
you
were
relate to the
Braveheart.
baddies though? I'm talking about somebody that you relate to, that you go, this could be me.
Definitely my Viking grandfather. Definitely. And you know, they weren't just running around raping and pillaging. I
Right,
mean, yes,
exactly.
they
were builders and creators, and yeah.
Oh, they discovered America first. And here's an interesting thing. They say the DNA collapses. And I say, no, it doesn't. That is a Viking finger. Modern medicine.
My son has that finger.
There you go.
We're from Viking
Modern
descent.
medicine calls it Dupuytren's disease. And then Neil Gaiman, who's my muse.
It's a bent finger for those that are listening, by the way, not watching. Yeah. Bent pinky.
It's a bent pinky. It doesn't hurt, but it doesn't open up. But it holds my phone great, my iPhone. It's an iPhone holder. I'm going to patent this. So I had it done on this one, and that's how Alice in Opioid Land is born. Because they ply me with drugs because the operation doesn't work.
No, my son has had this operation 3 times, and the finger just goes right back.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I said, my girlfriends are like, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to leave it alone.
Yes.
I'm going to knit it a sweater. But now that I found out who I am, now it's like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure? Have you given this some thought? Don't wake the dragon. She's very calm right now. She's purple and pink, and she's doing her nails.
Yes. I have a year of the dragon daughter. I know exactly what that means.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So, I mean, I think that Eleanor of Aquitaine, I think that, you know, her husband screwed her around, put her into like 10 years of, he wanted the Aquitaine, which is part of France. But that England had at one time so much of France. So this is when I find out I'm French. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, I'll go with that. That's cool. So Eleanor has the Aquitaine, and he marries her, and then she has 3 sons, Richard the Lionhearted, I forget the other one, and then John the First, who's my grandfather. Richard gets killed in one of the Crusades. Eleanor gets on a horse and rides to Jerusalem over mountains to get to her son. She's 70. In those days.
That's you.
And of course, Katharine Hepburn, my favorite actress of all time, played her in Lion in Winter.
Right. Yes.
So, you know, she gets out of there and she goes and rules the Aquitaine after 10 years of being locked down by Henry II because he wanted to marry a younger woman. So, the queens are amazing. But, you know,
they have to be, though, in order to survive. They have to be.
Exactly. That's what it was, is I'm learning, boy, this was rough going. But it was the Middle Ages. It's not now. We can't look back and judge with a moral compass what people did then, even 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Because we didn't live then.
No.
We live now and we are improving.
Right.
Just look at the
game. We're slow to improve, but at least we are getting there step by step.
Evolution. It takes time.
Yes.
You know, we look at our time and it's this much.
Yeah.
And every day just stretches on by, you know. Right. But then we look back and we lived like this much.
Yeah.
But how much happened during that time?
Yes, exactly.
This is a 1,000-year history.
Yeah.
And they were protecting their land and their power, which was everything.
Yeah.
You were a king, or you were a landowner, a baron, or you were a peasant. That's it. Or Robin Hood, who was actually a real guy. But there's some of them, Longshanks, we know from Braveheart, throws a guy out the window. That's my grandfather, lovely guy. His son is my next grandfather. So I'm finding out all this stuff, but then I watched a documentary on, I believe it is Edward the Third, who they say was England's greatest king, and why. Well, when John is king, the barons get together and stop fighting amongst each other. And what they do is they get him to sign the Magna Carta.
Mm-hmm.
Then Edward, 3 or 4 generations down, revises it and makes it the magnificent document that it is today. And he induces Parliament. He starts giving up areas of power and turning it over to Parliament. So that is the beginning of the evolution of the England that we see today.
Yeah, they did a TV series, which I'm sure might kind of be based in history. I don't know if it's totally historical, but The Last Kingdom.
Why does that sound so familiar?
It was a series, and it was really interesting. It was about they called it Wessex back then, and the king trying to bring the rest of the barons together under one rule. But he was extremely religious, so he wanted to bring it under religion. But he wanted England to be united, and and how the fighting was going on. Of course, then the Vikings, and this one young man was a Normandy, and he had been captured as young and brought up by the Vikings, and ended up working for the king. And it's
this
really,
on TV?
It's probably Netflix or one of those,
you know. I think it's the continuation of the movie, the show, The Vikings,
right?
Which I'm watching, and it's Yagnar of Northbrook and his brother Rollo.
Yeah.
And all this time, this is my grandfather.
Right.
But they were not brothers, actually. So that was their dramatic license. They went ahead and did that. So, but as far as I was concerned, every single one of my friends said they weren't the least bit surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't become egotistical about it.
It's just intriguing, isn't it?
It's really intriguing.
Yeah.
Because what I look at members of my family and I see who's just like who.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I look at myself and I say, because it depends on the milkshake you get.
Yeah.
What DNA gets thrown in there, what character flaw, what strengths, what gets put in there. And there was a lot of greatness, but there was a lot of baddies too. But
you have to have good and bad. You can't have all your good.
This is where Western civilization comes from.
Yeah, exactly.
The advent of Parliament.
My ex-husband is Chinese, so my children are half. And my one daughter did her ancestry. And it was so interesting. She married a man who's half Scots and then kind of British Canadian. And she is dark eyes, dark hair, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Her husband is kind of reddishy type hair and lily white skin. And my grandson,
of course,
is identical to his father, beautiful bluey green eyes, reddish hair, lily white skin. And yet when I'm fair with blue eyes and fair skin, and my children took the Chinese DNA, where they didn't necessarily look at in features, but in coloring. Right. And it's interesting. And that, her son is, we don't know, she's expecting another one in 3 weeks. And so we're very intrigued.
Wow, congratulations.
It's intriguing to see what the coloring is going to be on this one. Because there was 1% Korean in there. We're not quite sure where that came from, but it was predominantly Scottish. I
love all that mixing. Yeah. I think that's the destiny of humankind if we don't slow it.
Yes.
we all just keep mixing, and the children are magnificent. They bring the best of everything with them.
Yeah, because I'm just boring. I'm just British and Scottish. My grandmother was a Macintosh, so I'm 3/4 British, but of Viking descent somewhere along the line. And then my grandmother was a Macintosh. So, but my mother's father, he kept, and I've got it in storage somewhere. He went back to 500 when they started keeping records in the church, and he went back that far of the Standerley family. And the thread all the way through the years of either judges, government administrators, people that kind of empower, and writers.
I have a lot of writers. Cousins.
And my brother is a professional writer, an author. My mother was an actress and wrote. And of course, my writing is my verbal. But it's interesting how those threads, they may manifest slightly differently, But
Right.
it is that wonderful thread from our ancestors that's passed down. Because I'm a firm believer that the vessel that we're in is just, you know, the body on loan. It's the spirit's having a human experience.
It's the mortal coil.
It is. You know, this is what I'm traveling in right now, and it has the human
Yes,
DNA, and I have the cosmic
I
DNA.
totally agree.
And so all the lives that I've had before are also experiencing the human DNA that are going on. And I think this is why we're always so inquisitive, why we always have this beautiful ability to expand and discover more and want to look deeper and
Well,
look
that's me,
behind. Yeah, I
but
me
not
too.
everybody. Not
No,
everybody.
I know.
But
I know.
if I learn something new every day, it's a great day. If I
Yeah.
don't learn something new, I'm very upset. Like I love when somebody tells me something, I say, I didn't know that.
Yes. That's the reason why I
It,
do these podcasts. I'm always
it's
learning something
fantastic.
new. I love it. I love it. I love it. And
It's
it's
fantastic. But I think my real pride, my real pride, um, lays in Rollo, you know, the Viking that founded Normandy. You
yep.
know, he kept attacking Paris. They said, the French said, well, they were Francs at that time. We'll give you Normandy if you stop attacking. So he did. And but he really set up he built Normandy as a tremendous little kingdom, fair and good. There's statues of him everywhere. And I'm also very proud that when I meet people in bars in New
Mm.
York who come from the area, they'll say, what's your name? I'll say Butler. They say, oh, you're royal. But they say it in a way, not like, oh my God. They
Uh-huh.
say it in a way that they must have been good people to the people around.
Right. The
They must have
familiarity
ruled,
of understanding where the roots come from. Yeah. I
yes.
mean, look
But
at the
then
transcendence of that, though. You know, how many eons are we talking about? Yet
1,000 years.
the way that he treated the people at that time is a thread that's still remembered,
Right.
despite any other mishaps along the way of other people. The good is what's remembered.
Yes. Well, I see the baddies around. I see
Yeah.
the baddies around now. They're here. They're here. That DNA is alive and well.
Mm-hmm.
But my real love, I've always been
Mm-hmm.
incredibly American, and deeply patriotic. You know, not crazy like these crazy guys in the Capitol. I would have shot you, quite frankly, in the foot. We got you off the
Yeah.
wall.
Yes.
Yeah, because I just would have said, no. We don't do things like that here. We talk
Mhm.
it out. That's the
Yes.
whole idea.
Yes.
Okay. Thinking that my grandfather said, you know what? I'm youngest. I get nothing. He interned as a doctor, and we picked him up landing in Boston in 1633, and he worked as a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so proud of him and relate so much to him. And then his great grandchildren going off to war
Yeah.
with all their cousins. My grandfather was in Valley Forge with Washington, his cousin. And when I found that out, and he was on the muster roll of
Mm-hmm.
Valley Forge, that is the stuff that really got me. That
Mm-hmm.
really got me. And then the DAR started to look into my past because you have to proof it
Right.
in order to join. So
Mm-hmm.
they found all the papers and all the stuff, and they linked it to my Dutch grandfather. And that's how I got into the DAR, because they couldn't find enough on my British grandfather. They didn't
Mm.
keep records.
All right. Yes. Yeah. You know, you've kind of, I'm very much, I think, like my grandmother Daisy, that in the First World War, she was driving the ambulances to the front line, you
Yep,
know, to
mine
get
too.
the soldiers, no lipstick in a handbag, a
Absolutely.
car tool, you know.
That's who we are.
Hmm. Yeah.
When I watch Dunkirk, I'm like, that's who we are.
Yes. Yeah. And my
You're
dad, the
gonna
fighter
jump in
pilot,
there.
came in with his arse on fire a few times, you know, before they
Yeah.
took him into the Air Force because they were being choosy back then, and he got sank 3 times on a ship, you know. That, but yeah, that's
No,
and it was
listen.
interesting that he was incredibly brave and enormously courageous, and very much the companionship, you know, the camaraderie between everybody. But
Yes.
when it came to actually choosing things in his own life, he lived in fear.
Yeah, well, they had a purpose,
Hmm.
and he had everybody with him.
Yes.
When he's alone, he has to make those individual decisions,
Yeah.
not knowing anything else. That's just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
You know, that's a different story.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, I come from 1,000 years of warriors.
Hmm.
So that's 1,000 years of trauma.
Yes. And I think my mother on the other side is the warrior, not a warrior. So it came from the anxiety of that. But yeah, I'm the oddball in the family, definitely. Whereas rather like you, I've just every job I ever got, I taught myself into or taught them into hiring me, whether I, could do the job or not. It was just, I don't know if I can do it. How about we give it a try?
Yeah, we'll find out. I'll
Yeah.
try and let's see.
Right, international secretary. How do you spell secretary? No, guest job isn't for me. Mobile oil, first woman rep. Okay, don't know a thing about oil, but it's all about customer service. And
My
you
mother,
realize what your strengths are. You right?
well, that's it. And I was dyslexic. And my mother, bless her heart, she said, own your own business. And I don't care what you do, be happy.
Yes.
And whatever you do as a woman, don't tell them you type.
That's funny enough. I just done a show this morning on when a woman said when somebody asked her to type, she said, "No, you have a secretary for that. That's not what I'm here for."
Exactly.
Yes.
I went to one employment agency. I took a typing test, and two boys in suits went in for interviews. And I said, "Oh no,
Yeah.
oh no!"
Yeah.
And at that exact time, Gloria Steinem is marching down Fifth Avenue.
Right.
You know, and I've met her a few times in my life. I'd say she's a friend, and she's remarkable what
Hmm.
these women did.
Yes.
You know, and I really feel there are only two different kinds of people on this planet, and that's men and women that are inherently different, chemically different.
Hmm.
All the rest of us just come in different flavors, like Baskin
Right.
Robbins, 31 flavors. The, we are very, very different. And at one time we were goddesses.
Yes.
We gave life.
Yeah, we still do.
And then and then with the advent of organized religion
Hmm.
and these things, then we were pushed down. But
Suppressed.
that's over because here
Oh,
we
yeah.
come.
Well, as I said, as much as they try and turn the clock backwards and put women back at barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen, we are out of the womb and you can't put the baby back.
No, no. And for our sisters in the Middle East and in other
Hmm.
countries where they're abused and taken as slaves and this kind of thing, don't worry, we're coming.
Yes.
Because there's Facebook and there's the internet,
Yes.
and they're watching and they're listening and they're saying, if they can do it, we can do it.
But the other thing too, nothing ever changes without some form of revolution.
Oh, yes.
I have a saying,
Yes.
actionism is talking about the problem. Activism rather is talking about the problem. Actionism is doing something about it. We've talked long enough. It's now
Yes.
action. Now we don't have
Yes.
to take up pitchforks. We don't have to take up arms. We have to realize we are a weapon with our voice, with our persistence, with our standing together, and
As
with
women,
our
as American
as
women.
women as a force of loving
Yes.
energy, because we actually achieve more in the loving vibration than you do in the
Yes.
hate rhetoric and fear rhetoric, because we're the
Yes. For the
creators there.
round. Right. Yes. But again, there's our sisters that live in these countries that cannot
No,
um, physically fight back. They'll be killed,
right.
stoned by their own father or brother.
Yes, yes.
And I've traveled a great deal in the Middle East and was schooled intensely on this. And
When I'm
I
not being
want
a
to see them
person
all.
that's not afraid to speak out, how did you navigate that?
Oh, directly. If when I was in Chechnya, they had weapons, so that was a different story that'll be in my memoirs. I was taken and not gotten to where I was supposed to go. But in normal, Jerusalem is a great example, because Jerusalem is divided into four parts. It's Armenian, Christian, Jewish, and Muslim. So you can just keep going down and down corridors and discovering new things, and it's magnificent because you can feel it. You
Hmm.
can feel the spirituality, but then you can also feel all the politics
Yes.
and nonsense. Um, but I basically, when I would travel in different countries around the Middle East, uh, I remember one story in particular. I'll tell you, maybe this will put it in perspective. I was sitting in someone's house who was very powerful. And there was a man there wearing his whole outfit. And there was a little woman sitting next to him like a little mouse. And he says, I have 105 grandchildren. I'm like, that's nice. Okay. And he still rides his horse. He's like 90. Mm-hmm. And I said, and then somebody took me in the other room for a minute and they said, you know, the woman sitting next to him is his oldest daughter. She can never be married. Her job is to take care of him.
Oh, yes.
So then he starts to give me a lecture on my daughter that I just adopted from Lithuania and how I have to treat her and bring her up. And I looked at him and I said, really? Is that exactly what you've done with her? And he just looks at me like, if you were one of us, I'd have you dragged out of here in a second.
Yeah.
But I knew he couldn't. He couldn't touch me.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to say it had to be said.
Yes.
But I pick when I'm in those countries, I pick my battles very carefully. I will use all my diplomacy and BS on you so you think you've got everything you need from me, and then I will turn around and do exactly what I want to do and then rat you out in my memoirs.
Right, exactly. I've managed to get myself into some positions and places in life that one shouldn't find oneself in. And there was one time in Washington, D.C., I borrowed my friend's car for the day and I was going back and I took a wrong turn. And I'm down this road and it looks kind of quite barren, nobody there. I saw 3 guys standing there and wind down the window. And there are people of color. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to speak anything with my South African twang. I'm going to make sure I speak very British here. And I've always found that playing Dizzy Blonde really does work. And so I'm the dizzy blonde that's lost, very British. And I noticed that these guys had chains around them. And okay. And but I appealed to them. I'm lost, I'm this and that, I'm from England, I love your country, da 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 da. All of a sudden there's more guys out there. And eventually they just guide me back to the highway. Mm-hmm. I get home to where my friend is. She's a historian. She has a friend over who's a cop. He says, you were where? You did what? He said, please don't go down there and fret for their life. How did you get down there? Well, they did what? What? They just couldn't believe it. And I believe, you know, I've got myself into a lot of predicaments, but I've always appealed to the different nature.
To the human nature of the person.
To the human nature of the person. No, it does not work if the person is either totally on an ego trip or high, because then they're just not that way. You know?
Then you're out of luck. But I have a similar story, and I'd like to say something about our Black and brown brothers and sisters who have grown up in these ghettos.
Yeah.
And you know, I grew up under the same kind of yoke. So I understand, but I don't understand what it is to be a woman of color.
Right.
But I understand what it is to be a woman. If you're a woman of color, you can double down.
Yeah.
Okay, excuse me. So I got lost in Compton. And my Korean assistant is having a nervous breakdown. It's a guy. And I'm like, will you stop? So I pull into a candy store. The candy store is encased in plastic. So the guy behind the thing isn't completely robbed or killed.
Right.
And, you know, I understand this. This is what has happened because of the breakdown of the family, the rise of the gangs. I understand the history here. And I have always reached out and tried to talk on a human level and a sister level with anybody, regardless of what your background is or how much money you have, or certainly what color you are. I don't care what color you are.
I don't care either.
So I'm lost. So the guy in the candy store knows nothing. I go out as a kid, he's dressed all in red. So I know he's one of the Bloods.
Right.
And I'm in his territory. I said, dude, I am totally lost. He says, where you got to go? I said, I got to go back to Sunset Boulevard and this thing. He says, all right, let's get a piece of paper because it's a little complicated. And he's writing this whole thing down for me. And I'm saying, there is no difference between this guy and me. There is no difference. The only difference is that I was white. I was raised by parents who were absent but smart and then showed up later. And I was lucky.
Yeah.
I was lucky. Whereas these guys, he's been crapped on, his mother's and father have been crapped on, their grandparents crapped on. So it becomes a generational thing, and they're looking to belong to something, so they get involved in these gangs.
Yes.
And I think it's up to us to embrace it. You know, I say, you know, you should have friends. Your friends should look like the United Nations. If I walk in and somebody introduces me to all their friends at their party and everybody's white, I know that I don't like this person.
Yeah.
Why are you not trying to do what's best for our country and best for us as human beings growing up, that you don't have people from all different races and learning from them?
Yes.
Because you have a lot to learn from them. I grew up with these kids in the orphanage, so I learned. I was schooled quite quickly. But I have a black goddaughter. And she has to deal with all this crap.
I know.
The husband that doesn't pay child support, and I'm like, where's my baseball bat? I'm gonna. And she's like, no, because you can't go to court, and the courts do nothing. They don't do anything. Guys in jail, and she's struggling, the strength of the black woman. And I turned around. Her name is Andrea, and I turned around to her. I said, "Do you realize the strength of the people and the pride of the people that you come from? Do you have any idea what they survived in America and what they came from? These are amazing people, and this is how you have to look too." And I love Viola Davis just did that woman. That Woman King. I just loved it. Because they laid all of it out. You know, she's saying, why are you selling our own people?
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, Dublin started as a Viking slave port. Everybody was enslaved.
Yes.
Everybody. But I think as Americans, and especially the last couple of years with everything that's been going on with this brutality and all these things, and then people are victims of crime, so it's back and forth and back and forth. You have to reach out.
Yeah.
You have to reach out and have friends and have these discussions. And they're hard.
Yeah.
But you have to have these discussions and learn that it was easier for me as a white woman. If I was a black woman at that time, probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, it was quite an education for me as a teenager moving to South Africa.
Oh boy. And that must have been something.
Well, I mean, for me, right, they're just a different color. You know, I was kind of a bit clueless to the politics. Right. And, you know, I got into a lot of trouble by kind of friending and, you know, the gaffers.
By your own people.
By my own people, yeah. I mean, I was engaged at one point to an Afrikaner whose father was boss, state security. And he was still fighting. Great. You're right, yeah, man. Yeah, and he was still fighting the Boer War. And hated the fact that I was British. My
great-grandfather's in the Boer War. Yeah. And I mean, you know, look.
When you've got that kind of, you know, and this is what we're seeing right now. We're seeing this desperate need to hold on to something that's already gone.
Yes.
We've already so far forward. And that please let go and evolve, because you're holding yourself back, never mind everyone else.
Of course.
You're causing yourself the pain and the suffering. Why?
Of course. This is the thing. You know, I go to refugee camps, and I've been in quite a few of them. And the most recent one is Syria. The Syrian refugee camps in Jordan. Because I mean, what this president has done, bombing. I mean, if you look at pictures of Syria before and now, it's
obliterated.
So I'm in a refugee camp with 2 million people living in UN tents.
Yeah.
And they go and sell their tents and make like a Fifth Avenue where you can shop. There's a tobacco shop, a guy is selling wedding dresses, a guy is selling washer dryers, and with the guy that I'm still friends with who runs the whole thing. He's like the chief guy, you know, because you can always get somebody that's really pissed off and Americans there, you know, which I totally understand. I totally get why you're pissed at us. But that's our politics. That's our politicians that need a major cleanup. Okay.
Oh, I mean, God.
Please.
Across
Yeah.
the board and across the world. Yeah.
Oh, come on, come on.
Yeah.
Let's grow up.
Oh,
We need to
I
grow
should be
up.
just before you
And
go any just before you go any further with that thought, because you said that, I have to tell you the saying that was given to me. The universe is shaking us up to wake us up, for us to step up and change up, grow up vibrationally, and grow up as a human
I
race.
love that. Please send that to me in a text.
I will do.
Okay, do that because it's so true. I said we need term limits and we need to
Yeah.
outlaw lobbying. Okay,
100%.
do that. I don't want a 90-year-old senator that can't find the bathroom voting on how
Right.
much money welfare recipients can get.
No, and
don't want
I just don't want politicians and e-commerce to be in the same verbiage. You can't buy the politician. They just cannot buy politicians. There has to
exactly.
be
They should
a
give
set amount that people in an
exactly.
election can spend, and
Yep.
anything over and above that, billionaires can't come in and buy the position they want. I'm sorry,
No,
that
and they
is
can't buy
not
favors.
that
They
is not
can't buy favors.
democracy. No.
Listen, there was always, because I've studied the founding fathers now intensely, and so what's really amazing about them is they came from position, a lot of them,
Yeah.
and they were willing to give all that up in order to be free, because if they were caught, if they were defeated, they were dead.
Yeah.
That was it. And there's a very funny story down here in Kips Bay. It's called the Battle of Brooklyn. Washington and his guys look out, and there's 300 British warships. And he goes, run.
Mm-hmm.
And they run up Broadway, which if you've ever been to New York is a diagonal street
Yeah.
because it was an old Indian trail.
Uh-huh.
And he fought a guerrilla war because, the British would not accept the fact that people wanted to start a new way of living. And
This is a New York, not New York back home.
yes, exactly. And it's very interesting because very few people know that Jefferson actually introduced into the Virginia legislature when they were still operating as a colonial entity, the abolition of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And they threw things at him. What are you, crazy? So I think that's a sense where they say, you know what? We got to leave it for the next generation and the next generation after that. And I say right now, we've got to let these old dinosaurs die.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree.
They have to go, and you have to get fresh blood of all different races in there representing what America really was meant to be. I know that Ben Franklin and these guys were too smart not to know that eventually America would be made up of all people.
Well, the whole thing about us as human beings and from a spiritual level and the calling of what I'm here to do, we have to raise our consciousness. That consciousness, which is kindness, caring, consideration, compassion, collaboration, love. Scientists have now actually measured people that live on that vibration of love, where you can't knowingly hurt anyone else. To do so is to hurt yourself. And they know that people are resonating on a higher frequency. On that higher frequency, you're actually opening to actually channeling the wisdom that will resonate your heart in truth, that will lift your spirit into action, and it will allow your mind to know what it needs to know when it needs to know it, and get out of the ego brain and understand there's a collaboration between the universal knowledge and the human knowledge. And it's when we put the two together that we're really empowered. And it's only through the raising of our consciousness and awareness of each other's pain. And a lot of the reason why people won't raise their consciousness, it's painful. Because you're now acknowledging the pain that we've been inflicting upon each other. But we have to go through that pain. We have to have empathy and compassion for that pain in order to put it right, to put a stop to the pain and help people heal.
Exactly. We have to help one another. And I'm especially active in women helping each other. Young women that want to be photographers, I bring them in as interns. And I say to them, okay, tell me, in the summer, tell me what they're not teaching you in school. In unison, everything. I said, okay. So we spent all that money and we all these loans now. I'm going to teach you how to run a photography business. Because lighting and shooting the picture, that's going to make up about 10% of everything that Kim does. Okay? So I'm going to teach you everything else. And now 4 of them have got full-time jobs working for the photographers, learning. But now they know the essence all those little secrets that none of those guys are going to tell them
Yeah.
about how to get in somewhere, how to act on the set, how to do this, how to do that, how to just stay under the radar so that there's no problem, and then bust out on your own when you're ready to do it. And I feel a very keen thing to keep helping women, because we're still in America at 70, I think it's 77 cents on the dollar that we're making, and to men. And
Well, that's why so many women are going off and being independent and
that's
forming their own
exactly right.
businesses, right?
That's why the pandemic was so great.
Yes, it was a redirect. It was a
was a
wonderful
redirect.
pivotation of people going, why am I still doing this? This gives me the opportunity to pause, rethink, reevaluate, and redirect where I really want to go.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, may I read something from my book?
Please, please, please.
Okay, because it applies exactly to this. So let me just go to this page. And this is me when I'm struggling. Where am I going? What am I doing? And I decide, I make the decision to go to film school. And I make the decision to go to film school at NYU, that is down on 4th Street in the Village. So here I am on the train. The minutes flash by like express stations, light, 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 darkness, light. I will not die slowly like this. I will create my own world. Oh, fear, you are my lover. I look up at him, rocking back and forth, hypnotized by the promised pension. Not me. I will fly, escape, soar. He stays on, head down, strapped in tightly at the gate. Further down the tube he goes, to the end and the wall, and death by cubicle.
Yes, I kind of refer to many people as the walking dead or the living dead, because yes. they're so waiting for life to happen to them.
Yes.
That nothing is happening.
Yes. And I would see these people on the train, after you go to the same stop to go get the train, like every day going to school, yeah. I would see the same people over and over and over again. And I'm saying to myself, whoa, 40 years of this and there's no AC? No, 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 no. So see, it was the fear of that. That's what I want to get across to people. That it was the fear of being just blah.
Yeah.
It was the fear of being one of those lemmings going into those tiny little boxes, like Sting says.
Humanoids.
And you're going to the office and you're coming back, and you're going to the office and you're coming back, and then Robert Maxwell steals your entire pension. I mean, you see these people in court begging the judge, and I'm like, I am not going to put myself in this position to be one of these people. Now, that being said, there's a lot of my friends that can never understand how I did what I did because they like the security of a check on Friday. And I respect them with all my heart.
I don't know what that security is like even now. 11 years. I am lousy. I'm very good at supporting other people in their own business, but not my own. Why aren't you charging for your show, Sarah? And I say, I do everything by free will. That is my spirit essence, and it's all done by donation. It's up to other people if they feel they want to support me or not. And that is just, it's annoying, but unfortunately, that is the thread that I'm at. Like you, I could not, I mean, I don't know if you know anything about true colors, but they represent the 4 key personality traits. And, there's the inquisitive, the people that see the possibilities and want to make it happen, the people that really want to dissect and where's the data on this, and the people just give me the manual and I'll build it. And then there's the other one, which is me, which is flapping in the wind. Just please don't even show me a box. You can't contain the wind. You can't trap me in there. I am air. Even when I touch ground, it is just a springboard back up. I am whatever the wind wants me to be. And sometimes I'm a hurricane, sometimes I'm a breeze, sometimes I'm just standing still. But I cannot be or do what my core won't allow me to do or be.
Exactly. And whether that comes down from my DNA, my childhood experience, whatever it comes down to, I want to say to any of the women that are listening, if you feel like, what is your dream? What is yours? Joseph Campbell, one of the, amazing. You should listen to his speeches on the history of man and myth. The Star Wars was built on his, he says, you follow your bliss.
Yeah.
What is it that you love?
That and is be the first that question. Love. Be that love.
Yeah. Be that love, but also do that love.
Yes, because when you are it, you'll do it.
Exactly. Then you will live 40 years of happiness and never work a day in your life because you're doing what it is to be happy. And if that will reflect on the man or woman you marry, the children that you have, that's what you'll pass down. That'll be your legacy. And if you want to work in an office and do that, God bless you. Thank you, because I can't do it. I'm incapable. I'm dyslexic. I can't type. Can't file. Can't keep it.
God for Grammarly.
I'm strictly
became a writer when I got a computer because I couldn't read my own writing and the order that things were in, right?
Yeah, but I want those women to know that they have every choice in the world, that you can be anything you want to be. You just have to make up your mind. And if there's anybody in your life that's trying to stop you from being that, you need to eliminate them.
Exactly.
Now, not in my Middle Ages way. In my current way.
Yeah, I will exterminate.
You need to re-examine. You need to re-examine who you're surrounding yourself with. I had a husband, God rest his soul. He passed away about 3 or 4 years ago. He encouraged me and supported me in everything I did. I would walk in and say, "Hi, I'm leaving for Libya. Barbara Walters is photographing Gaddafi." The expression on his face was priceless. He was, oh my God. Because the State Department said, like, you're on your own, bye.
Yes.
And he wanted to do a good PR stint. So we got Barbara Walters. I was her photographer. And God rest her soul.
Great.
And, he packed me my fantastic meal so that I wasn't eating that garbage airplane food. And I would open it up and he put tons of garlic in my mashed potatoes. And the garlic was, going all through the airline cabinet. I'm just like, what can I say? My husband loves me. He makes sure I'm packed for the trip.
But he also would never, ever in a month of Sundays, however fearful he was of where you were going next, ever hold you back, because to do so would be to deny who you are.
People said to me, weren't you afraid? I said, yes.
It's sensible fear though, right?
But I'd be more afraid, and because I would get depressed.
Yeah.
And then I would get hit by a bus crossing Fifth Avenue to pick up my antidepressants. And what an end would that be for my book? That really sucks. If I'm shot in Chechnya or I'm taken away or, something terrible happens, I go down, whatever happens, I did it with style.
Yes, exactly. Talking about the word depression, do you get it? Because somebody mentioned something the other day, because I suffer from it a lot. And she said it's more environmental depression or circumstance depression. For me, it's empathic depression when I am feeling what's going on in the world. And that depression goes in there, that rabbit hole. I've learned how to curb it a great deal now, but it used to be very consuming. And really, it's not the depression over my own life. It's the depression of what I'm feeling out there. So kind of the environment or, circumstantial depression. And I think that we like to just put a word depression and think that's it on its own, but what's causing it? And
yes, and it also had a stigma.
Yes.
And, we need to drop that now, okay?
Yeah.
Because all of you are hiding secrets and, we know.
Yeah.
So, and if you don't have any depression at all, you're probably a psychopath. Yes, the empathic depression that I suffered after 9/11 was crippling.
Yeah.
Crippling.
Yeah. Like somebody pulled your guts right out.
I don't want to describe the kind of things as New Yorkers we saw.
Yeah.
But it was horrific.
Yes.
Absolutely horrific. And I could feel the pain.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I was depressed about a week earlier. I was sitting on the beach by myself and a friend of mine went by and I was staring out at the ocean and he says to me, "What's wrong?" I said, "I don't know. something very heavy is coming and I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. And that was the empathy to whatever I'm picking up.
Yes.
Is going to happen. So
the
yes.
frequency was already changing. And the thing is, we can't stop it. Even if you know something is happening. Before COVID came, I said something globally is going to happen that's going to shake this world up. And it's going to shake us up in such a way that it's going to change life how we know it forever. But I had no idea what it was. I just knew it was coming.
Yes, I've taken big losses in COVID. I've lost 4 of my best friends. And it's made me incredibly depressed.
Yeah.
Miss them terribly. Miss my mother. I was so glad she died before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because I would have stopped her from shopping in a wheelchair with her caretaker, Doreen. Shout out to Doreen, the best ever. And, they would have been miserable.
Yes.
But, there's things from my childhood that come up. While I'm writing my memoirs, there's these decisions. Do I tell all about what this person did to me? Do I not tell about what this person did to me? Will I get sued? Will they come after me? I want to get revenge. Is it really revenge or is it telling my truth? So yeah, I think it's normal to have ups and downs.
Yes.
And I do think for very sensitive people, they do get stuff that comes in on the astral plane and also travels through the universal subconscious. As Neil Gaiman's Sandman so eloquently put it, I live, dream, Morpheus. He lives in the universal subconscious.
I do too.
And, when I go to bed at night, I talk to myself and I say how great tomorrow is going to be. I'm going to feel great. I'm going to wake up feeling great. And I do every organ in my body, how restful it is, how relaxed it is, and how healthy it is. And I've seen it manifest day after day after day after day because I'm sending down into my subconscious.
Yes.
The agenda. And while I'm sleeping, we only use 7% of our brains. The rest is our subconscious mind.
Yeah.
And that's where the deep dive in the art of fear goes, is to confront that.
Yeah.
And I also confront it in Alice in Opioid Land because I said when they did my first, you can see all of these you can't see the complete art of fear on my site because it's too big a book. You can write to me at my website and I will send you a book. When I had the operation, they got me addicted to drugs because they said, oh, we've done everything we can. You have complex pain syndrome. And I'm super depressed. And out of that experience of becoming a full-blown addict, I did Alice in Opioid Land, and I dedicated it to the Sacklers, who made OxyContin. And if you haven't seen Dope Sick, I recommend that show for everybody because it lays out what they did. And deliberately addicting people.
Of course.
Buying the doctors, buying the pharmaceutical guys that go and sell it, get it out. Oh, no, it's safe. It's very non-addictive.
As most of the drugs that they do push out there, it's all,
Yes. And so then I got back. I did Alice in Opioid Land, how she just becomes enamored of her mother's medicine chest. And the White Rabbit is selling cocaine. The caterpillar is up to no good with that mushroom. Lewis Carroll wrote that at a time in Victorian England where you could get that stuff right over the counter without a prescription in the apothecary.
Yeah. Yes, I remember that. Yeah. And then that's actually how it was just like kind of so utterly creative. And of course, back in the day there, LSD was actually something that did give people a out of body experience and was fantastic for creativity, etc. But as with anything, when there's capitalism involved with it, and I've actually interviewed quite a number of people who got caught on opioids, taken after an accident, getting better, and then the addiction and the criminal that they became in order to keep that addiction going.
Oh, I didn't have to become a criminal because they kept plowing me with it. But society makes you feel like a criminal. You feel like a criminal because I'm an addict now.
Yeah.
And I had to admit that and go to my gynecologist for help. I went to her. And she was fantastic. She had a son that was a psychiatrist that dealt with addiction. And between the two of them, they weaned me off and I was fine.
Yeah.
And, so now what I devote myself to now are things that are important to share.
Yes.
Addiction, The Art of Fear, and my banned books that I'm doing.
Right. Well, tell us about the banned books.
The banned books started with me remembering I was very good friends with Ray Bradbury, who wrote Fahrenheit 451.
Yes.
In the future, firemen burn books to stop the spread of knowledge in order to control the masses. Mm-hmm. And he watches a woman rather die with her books than get out of her house. Mm-hmm. And it changes him. And at the end of the book, he gets to meet people who have memorized entire books and joins
yes.
the underground.
Yes.
So I said, wouldn't it be interesting to paint a quote on a naked body from the book that's been banned?
Yeah.
And now it's taken on a life of its own. I'm working on a complete book. I just spoke at the New York Public Library, the big one, on this very topic at Banned Books Week. And now I'm getting ready for next September's Banned Books Week. Now you can see some of them on my website. Mm-hmm. So if you go in there, you can see I've done a whole bunch of them, and picking very clearly. And of course, this year, it's all about the queer community.
Right.
Because now their books are getting banned terribly. And I don't know if people know this, but you've got to be very aware of what your city council and people are doing in your neighborhood. Right outside of Detroit, they closed the library because the librarian tried to negotiate. I'll keep all those books underneath, like we'll do it like the movie system. There'll be X, there'll be R, there'll be GP, and oh, no. And this is coming from the right and the left. Mm-hmm. And they finally said, you're fired. And now in Florida, under DeSantis, that librarian can get a 3rd-degree felony. Okay? Now, that is the most un-American thing that I've ever heard. And this guy thinks he's going to run for president.
I know, scary.
You better, that's the kind of thing. And I predict that we're headed for another revolution.
Oh, I've been saying that for the last 6 years.
Okay, so we were definitely separated at birth. Yeah, because things have to change.
Yes.
Because the good people, the people that are honest and righteous and want the best thing and want to help people that have nowhere to go. And I traveled to Ukraine in the 90s when the wall fell, getting people out and documenting and taking photographs of them getting out. And I became friends with so many people. Then when Putin attacked, I'm posting, give to the Ukraine, give to the Ukraine. And a woman actually said to me, she called me on the phone. She said to me, are you all right? And I said, yeah, why? She says, well, I see you posting all this stuff about the Ukraine. I said, yeah. And she says, well, I said, I'm trying to be polite. And I said to her, I worked there for many years in the 90s. She says to me, oh, so it's personal. And that's when the other Kim turned around and I said, yes, it is. And why isn't it personal to you?
Exactly. Somebody's suffering.
Children are being killed. I saw a Dutch couple standing at the border on TV with a sign, we can take 8.
Right.
They had driven from the Netherlands.
Yes.
And I said, this is the way we all have to be.
I 100% agree. I had a show just last week, I think it was, with a woman, American woman who knew a Ukrainian woman, and her daughter got caught when the bombing started happening, and she spent 5 weeks kind of in a basement with people. She only had first aid. She's trying to save people who are bleeding. People are dying all around her, children. She had a dog with her. Every time they tried to go out, they would shut down. Some people try and go out at night and get food. And it just was absolutely horrific. And they said this was not warfare. This was annihilation. And she managed to get out and go to Poland. And now they're both in America and she's trying to heal, right? But it is, and this is the thing, is that when people are so ignorant to make a statement like that, is that you have absolutely no understanding of what suffering is.
Yep. And whatever you're putting out there, you're pretending that because I watch your other posts, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
So are you allowed to say that on podcast?
Yes, and mine you are.
Okay. So what I want to say is that at this stage of my life, all the a lot of I do a lot of commercial stuff. I still make a living. I have to. But in all my spare time, I'm doing things now that are societally important.
I agree.
The banning of books, the drug addictions that are going on, okay? And how to conquer your fear and follow your bliss.
Yes.
And be happy. And that is the legacy that I want to leave. I want, and it's so important to me to do that.
I hear you.
And go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I hear you. It's the reason why I do what I do. You know, people say, why are you interviewing criminals? They went to jail. I said, because they understand where they went wrong. And they understood what took them there. And now they are an example of how to redeem themselves and take a different path and be that inspiration so somebody else doesn't take the same path as them.
We have so much to learn from them.
Exactly.
Are you kidding? What a stupid question.
I know.
Sorry.
No, I know. It's I do have 18 different genres that are very, very diverse here. And I've got what I call early entry spiritual people to extreme, total different universe type spiritual people, as well as I do with business and everything else. But for me, does the story come from the heart? Is what you're doing going to benefit someone else? Is this something that's going to enable a life to pivot in a better direction? And does your story, however, and believe me, God, have I heard some horrifics. I mean, there's some people.
I know.
And yet who they are today.
All I have to do is look in the mirror.
Can I be like them when I grow up? It's just like they are extraordinary people.
Right. Yeah. Because they have managed to do that. And I think that my business training and working with people and working with a lot of commercial people and movie stars and presidents and prime ministers and all that stuff, that is so valid and so good. And it's what I do now. And I photograph executives and I do a lot of things, but I'm able to walk in there with all that humility that I learned in the Syrian refugee camp.
Exactly.
From a lady that had nothing, that said, oh, please come. And she gives me a little piece of bread with a tomato on it and is making coffee.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting on a rug and I've got my 19-year-old with me because she's getting schooled right now. What an entitled life she's had. And well, how long have they been here? 2 years. Well, when did they get to leave? We don't know.
We don't even know where they're going to go.
Exactly. That's why I give my total blessings. And, may Allah bless him, the King of Jordan, said, come in. They're a poor country.
Yes.
And, it's just, so if there's anybody out there that's doing nonprofit stuff and you need photography, call me.
I've got many of them.
Involved in anything that's helping other people.
Yes.
Because look, we all have to make a living. That's the bottom line. We all have to eat.
Yeah.
There's no reason that you can't do something that also benefits other people at the same time.
It's the integral part of our purpose.
Yes, it is.
That transaction of I'm taking money for something that I know that the service or the goods I'm giving.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah, this is I've done some shows on immigrants and every single one of them has said, and this here in Canada, in my province there are 1 million people and one of them without doctors. And we're shortage of nurses and doctors and everything else.
I know.
And they're saying is that it is time to take the barriers down with the immigrants that come in. And immigrants are willing to work because they're very grateful for the fact that they've got a new life. And they know that in order to have this new life, they're going to have to work and find their place in it. Where you've got the other people out with their flags and they're protesting and they're this and that, me rights, me rights, me rights. You have no idea what your bloody rights are, what you're standing for.
You're an American.
Let's just drop you for a day in Ukraine.
That's what I say. I'm just going to leave you for a day in Chechnya. Yeah. Yes. Let's see how you do.
Yes, or in Russia.
Okay. We'll drop you there.
Or as a woman, on my TikTok, let's just go put you in Iran for a day.
Oh my God, there's no Wi-Fi.
Oh, yeah, I know. And it's like, please, folks, you are talking not even first, they're not, they can't even refer to it as first world problems. It's not a problem. You've made it a problem because there's so much entitlement out there. And there's so
Yes.
much of this opulence, and it's all of this
Yes.
narcissism that we have bred.
Oh my God.
It's
Well,
just,
you've got to just look at the reality shows and a specific family that
yeah,
introduced those reality shows.
yeah.
So that they turned an entire generation of girls into only worrying about how you look, the Botox, having a surrogate so your body doesn't get messed up. How much money are we getting paid for this? So I'm trying to raise a teenage daughter. What do you want to do? I want to be famous. Like Kim
Let me be
Kardashian.
like the Kardashians. I
And I'm
want to
like,
be fat.
they don't do anything.
No. What are they
And they have
contributing?
completely,
Yeah,
completely taken a generation
yeah,
of women. You see them on Instagram who all want to be famous for their looks
I know.
and for their sexuality.
Yes. I thought we were
And
moving away from that.
this is
Oh,
exactly the way we don't want to go.
no.
Listen, I meet a guy. I'm like, well, he's cute. I hope he thinks I'm cute, but it's coming from in here.
Yes. They're living the
And it comes
outside
out
life
my
because
eyes.
they're buying the advertising, right? I'm only going to be popular if I'm sexy, if I'm cute, if I'm this, if I'm that, or if I've got 10,000 likes. That is the shallow way of thinking. I promise you, I guarantee you, absolutely 1 trillion%, you will never find any happiness in life by an
That's right.
outside living life. Life is an inside out job. It is
That's absolutely
finding your
true. And I
passion,
can,
finding your calling, finding your meaning, purpose, finding your service, contributing, and being a part of a community in a fruitful way.
that's absolutely right. And if one thing I was going to say is, I'm an immigrant. My
Um,
grandfather was an immigrant.
well, yeah,
He
right.
came in 1633, but he was an immigrant.
I'm definitely an immigrant. England, South Africa, America here. Yeah, so I'm
Well,
definitely.
listen, the last day of Women's Month, I'm running a picture that I did of Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Lucy is the oldest woman that they've ever found. They found her in Africa. And I did my interpretation of her. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say I saved the best for last. This is the first woman, Lucy, out of Africa.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And when people start to realize that we all came from one place,
Yes.
and then we all moved out and
Yeah.
populated the world. That's how it happened. So everybody's related. So you're
And
related
the
to the
more we
president too.
we accept that now, I kind of look at it life as a buffet. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to like every dish out there. You don't have to eat every one of them. But we also don't have
Mm-hmm.
the right to say, you can't eat that because I don't like it.
Exactly. Well, that's what's so great about America.
Why can't
We've
we
just
all
got a
just get
clean
along?
house. What?
Why can't we all just get along?
Well, that didn't work out too well.
Uh,
We just have to get in tune and
yeah,
past this internet thing that did this to these children to understand how lucky we are to be Americans
yeah,
and or to be in another country that you get
that
to be
has
an
rights,
individual
right?
and you have rights.
Yeah,
Because believe me, when I tell you, we have people everywhere, they have no rights. And you wanna do this and you want to do that, and you're not going to do anything. You're going to do as you're told. You're going to sit in the corner and you're going to take care of your elderly father until you die. And
hmm
that's going to be that.
yes,
That
yeah,
broke my heart.
yes. A
That
life thrown
broke
away,
my
a life thrown away just to serve somebody's ego. Yeah. You know what? One of the reasons I
yes.
left South Africa as such an exceptional country was the misogyny and the apartheid. I just
Right, of
couldn't live
course.
with it anymore. And the misogyny was just so incredibly high as well. And if it is such a beautiful country with beautiful people, but this political agenda, which I always feel gets in the
Mm-hmm.
way of everything, religion and politics. They
Yep.
both need to completely be overhauled because they're meant to be here to serve the people, and instead
Right.
they're the division of the people. And
They
it's
certainly are.
It's time
You
for us
know,
to look at, but as we're pointing fingers, and I say this all the time, we're pointing fingers, government, religion, this, like I said, there's three fingers pointing back at us and saying, well, what are you going to do about it?
exactly.
What's your part in it? How are
Exactly.
you going to change to, your one drop in the ocean? Everybody, one drop in
I
the
want
ocean makes
every
the ocean.
kid,
What are you going to do?
I want every kid to read a banned book
Mm-hmm.
and
Yes.
not take opioids.
Right. Yes. And not get caught up in the mass collective of a dysfunctional society and believe that is the norm and where you should be. I've got a book coming out later in the year called the Forgotten Children series. And each person will be collaborating a chapter. But it's how we have let our children down. We don't look at the beautiful essence that they are and nurture it and allow them to grow in it. We immediately
Right.
pick them up, put them in school, and say, this is your desk, this is your box, this is you've got to conform to this teaching, and you cannot think out of that realm. Or religion that says you can only be this, you can only be that. I had somebody on this morning that, was saying that her daughter is binary. And so they are navigating through that path without any judgment because they're just as much in discovery of what that binary means to them as
Mhm.
it does to the child. And to say that the binary is wrong, who are we to say it? Who do we think we are to
No,
pass
we
these
don't know.
judgments on
We don't
people?
know. We don't know. But we've got the extremists in religion,
Mm.
the Christian right. I was a victim of that myself, living in Charleston. I was totally out of my element. Nobody wanted me there because I was an individual thinking woman that owned her own business. And I had an opinion about everything.
Well, I was a spiritualist and burned me at the stake, believe me. Just
Oh,
like,
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. But, I have friends. I was wishing them all happy Ramadan yesterday. I have friends. Passover's coming. Who's inviting me over?
You're right.
I already told two people. Who's inviting me? Because things have changed so much. So many of my friends that were here are gone.
Mm.
They've moved away. They've moved to different places, and it's so nice to learn about all these different
I
religions.
know.
I don't want you. I think that Jesus Christ is this like awesome dude that
Yes.
did these awesome things, and he was a
Peace.
magnificent teacher,
Yes.
magnificent teacher, and a revolutionary,
Yeah. Yes.
and a feminist.
Yeah.
And I want to know all about you,
Mm.
but I'm not going to shove this down your throat.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
not going to shove down that you can't read this book. I might say to my 5-year-old, no, it's a little too early for you to read
Right.
this book. You can read it when you're 10.
Yeah.
But I'm putting it on the 10-year-old shelf. Feel free to grab it when you're 10.
Right.
But without trying that control. This is all about control. Everything
Yes.
is about control.
And what
And
controls people? Fear. Keep them in fear. You now have the strings to pull the puppet on. The book called Fear. Yes, exactly. And fear cripples us. It literally contracts us. And when we're contracted, there's no oxygen running through our body. There's no chi, no
yes,
energy, and our mind has no clarity. It is just in a state of being of
yes, but
fear.
it's also, yes, exactly. And it's also that people are afraid to be individuals.
Yeah.
They want to be part of the crowd to feel like they're normal, or they're, because if you're outside of the box, you're going to be criticized. You got to find your own tribe.
Yeah.
Me 40 years ago burned at the stake. Again. But me now, it's like there's lots of women like me in business that I do business with.
Do you consider yourself what I consider myself is I'm kind of a floater, a little bit of a chameleon. I can be here, I can be there everywhere, but I don't necessarily belong anywhere.
Yes. I live
Yeah.
in myself, very connected to my higher power.
My kids always say, Mommy, join something, go and be a part of something. And I said, it would be great, but I can't do it. I love individual, I love connecting, I love this and that, but can't it be? I'm not a pack person.
No. And if I'm in the pack, I'm running the pack.
Yes. Yes.
But I'm blaming the Vikings. I'm blaming them all for that and for this. Okay, it's all their faults. I can't help myself. Who knows? But I
Yeah.
just want all those women out there to realize you can do whatever you want to do. There's nothing to stop you now. Nothing. And if you're living in the middle of nowhere, move to a big city.
And if you've got somebody around you who tells you you can't, use that as
Oh,
fuel to find out, well, just watch. Right.
that's
But
right.
please don't let, as I said, I grew up with she won't be able to do it. She's uneducated. She's hasn't got the right smarts. Being an asthmatic, I lost a lot of oxygen into the brain. But also, I am dyslexic, but at the same time, I think I'm not wired the human way to see things. I am always seeing
Exactly.
things from the cosmic universal way. So my comprehension of what I am seeing is a different channel to what you're seeing. But that means I'm not academic, but it doesn't mean I'm not intelligent.
Exactly. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And when you speak about wiring, I find this fascinating because I think that my soul arrived
Mm-hmm.
as my soul did and occupied this body the day I was born.
Yes.
And then I grew up with
Mm-hmm.
with an organic brain that it starts to get wired by everything around you.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't wired normally. I was wired by abuse,
Mm-hmm.
fighting, abandonment, violence, and but this intellect that wanted to know everything and this individuality. I was
Yeah.
like this from a very, very little kid. The individual, my soul came a certain way, and then it was wired a certain way.
Yes.
So I had told you I had to correct things in my behavior. I had to do work on myself and then follow my passion and follow my bliss. And to
Yeah.
hell with what everybody thought. I couldn't care less. But I had a great mom and dad with all their problems and everything that happened. They were substantially. My father, when I was 5 years old, I thought I was Huckleberry Finn because he read me the book.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived in Florida. It was by swamps and everything. So my fifth birthday, I got a machete because I was complaining that I couldn't get the coconuts open. I'd
Right.
climb the trees, get the coconuts, but I couldn't get them open. So he gave me my own machete, and then he gave me his belt so I could stick it in my pants. No shirt, looked like a little boy, got a crazy haircut. And I'm like, I'm off. I'm Huckleberry Finn. And the individual child that plays by themselves, their imaginations
Yes.
grow and grow. I
Yes.
see these kids, they're on the internet 24/7. And I'm like, we're like, get out of the house and play right
You're
now.
just becoming brainwashed, a dummy. And again, being so sickly, I would be 3 or 4 weeks at a time in bed on my own. My mum would be there, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. If I had an asthma attack, she'd be there. Otherwise, I'd be in a room on my own. And so I couldn't live there. I went off dimensional traveling. I lived in other realms.
There you
I had a
go.
complete life in other realms. I was also lucky enough to be in the era that I could take my doll's pram and go for a walk in the neighborhood for hours on my own.
Right. Right. See, I had to be home before the street lights went off.
Well, no, the
And
street
please,
lights, I was home before the street lights were everything, but the point is we're safe enough to do it then. Now we panic if we don't
yes,
see our kids in a
yes,
view. But
yes,
this is something
yes.
I've always said with my kids. I want you to have some time where you're doing nothing because there's so much to gain in nothingness, in being still and allowing your mind just to go where it wants to go.
So
Right?
true.
It is so, I mean, I actually do not go to sleep without a movie going on in my head. Not one I've watched, one I'm making.
Oh, yeah, 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 I know. Me too.
And like I'll wake up and I can, the tactile, I've touched, I've tasted. I'm also horribly fastidious on exactly where everything is, because I'm in the movie. I'm in the movie. It is real life going on in this parallel world while this body sleeps.
Well, that's exactly what's happening anyway,
Yeah,
because you're asleep and your subconscious is bouncing around,
yeah,
learning, looking, seeing. That's why I talk to it before I go to sleep
yeah,
consciously, so that my subconscious says, oh, okay, I've got all these positive things that have been told to me. Let's manifest them
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
And I just have to cooperate.
Yes. Then it's get out of your way.
Yes, pick up the phone, make that list, get this done, and so it's been fascinating talking to you. I mean, I love
Oh,
your
before you go,
spirituality.
before you go, You've interviewed so many wonderful celebrities, and I'm sure, you've bored out in them an essence of who they are behind, behind the veil, so to speak. Has there been any particular celebrity that you've photographed that kind of behind the veil has really astonished you or astounded you or marveled you?
There were three of them.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Pullman, the actor,
Mm-hmm.
who I became friends with after 9/11, who helped me with The Art of Fear. We became very, very close, and I could tell him anything and talk to him about anything. Neil Gaiman, who now is my muse, who looked at my Art of Fear work and said, I love the celebrity stuff you do, but that gas mask stuff, there's something about that. And my work after 9/11 went boom, because I'm not the same person anymore.
You're right.
And then there's Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking. I know those are old guys, but just off the top of my head, but there are several women. There are several women. But Stephen Hawking, I walked in and people were going by the office trying to get a peek. I mean, this is the most brilliant man in the world.
Yes.
And his whole office is decorated with Marilyn Monroe. And he's going to be, I do a read series, and he's going to be reading a Marilyn Monroe book. So I put it in the side of his wheelchair. And I'm telling the designers, look, what I want you to do is I want you to make him like a comet, and he's coming around a planet, and you have the stars and everything. That's the way I see it. And they did a fantastic job on the final product. But him and I are talking, and he's answering with his machine. I'm like, and I have to get a good smile out of him. Yeah. And actually, it's the last time he smiled.
Oh, really?
I said to him, all right, now, look, I'm not going to say anything, because I know that at night you and her are playing on the astral plane. I know that's going on, but it's her tits, isn't it? And he burst into this fabulous smile, and boom, I got him. And we were friends a long time. Anything Marilyn Monroe I would find, I'd send him. CDs he could listen to all day. And he just was just a great guy, brilliant, but very, very natural.
Very kind of simple in a very way, right? The simple brilliance. It is what it is. It's what I see. It kind of isn't the big bells and whistles of what I've discovered. It's just this is what I see. This is what it is. It's the simple brilliance.
This is what I do. And yes, it's who I am, but it's not all that I am.
Yeah.
I'm also a guy with a wicked sense of humor and a big Marilyn Monroe crush.
I love my brother loves taking photography near takeoff scenes, and it's always capturing people in the everyday thing and making something mystical about it, making something wondrous about it, where you can almost see the bubble. What's on their mind? What are they thinking while they're doing that? Wanting you to know more. And it's great to see a beautiful picture of someone smiling and this and that, but it's like, who are you really?
Yeah, well, you can capture somebody in a very tight photograph and see something in their eyes, and you capture it, and you really got their soul, which used to be a primitive fear.
Yes.
And a lot of people try to take my camera too when I've been in places, and I shot them doing something they shouldn't do, but that didn't work out for them. It's really fascinating. I just want to say, there's been some women who have been, Barbara Walters was a huge influence, huge, because she was fearless.
Yes.
Fearless.
But she was graceful too.
Yes. Amazingly graceful.
Yes.
But she was so funny. They said to her, we're in Libya, and we're out in the field, and there's all these camels running around. And they said, Miss Walters, would you love to try some fresh camel's milk? She says, my stomach was very funny this morning, but my photographer was just saying she would love to try the camel's milk. I'm like, I'm going to kill you right now. I'm going to kill you. And she was little, but she was tough. And there was a point they tried to get rid of me and bring in a guy. I went to her. Boom. no.
Yeah.
And Whoopi Goldberg did something like that. I've said I've met remarkable Ruth Bader Ginsburg. People that I wish I had more time to talk to. Then I've met famous people that, they believe their own press.
Right, exactly.
And that's bad. That's bad.
Well, when you look at the Walters and, the Ginsburgs and people like that, you look at them and you go, they're very real into who they are. They know what they stand for, but they do it with such grace that it does open the door for other people to let their guard down.
Yes, that's exactly right. Especially Ruth was like that. Barbara was tough, and they knew that they were getting into something. They knew she was coming. It wasn't going to be a cake, it was going to be a cakewalk. But I've met such famous people, and when I walk in and they're real, it's such a beautiful feeling, because that means they've gone through their ego, they've gone through all that, they've come out the other side, and we sit down, it'll be a president of the United States, and he's packing to go move to the White House, and we're sitting on boxes and we're talking.
Obama, you got him?
No, not Obama. No, but now I'm related to him, so I just have to call.
Exactly.
What's up? We got to hook up. I have lots to tell you that you don't know about your mother's background.
I've never been swayed by someone's position. The limelight and the money and the this and that.
No, it means nothing.
That's something you've accomplished, and maybe questionable how you've accomplished it. But for me, it's like your heart and soul. Does it speak to me? Does your character speak? My younger daughter is like this. She sees people from the inside out. I'm not buying the facade.
Right.
I don't care how rich you are, how popular you are, how this or that. Do I see you? And I remember being in a couple of business meetings with these people of and it was over a digital quantum electric motor, which I knew nothing about, but I was backing the person. And in the middle of the meeting, all this puff and puff, they look at me, you see me, don't you? Just very quietly, yes.
That's great.
That's all I had to do, smile and say yes.
Yes.
Didn't need to say any more.
Yeah. Well, I think
because I saw through the facade.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I think that people sense that about me, and I see it in them, and we get along great. And I think that that's been the secret to my success, is that I'm able to walk in and say, hi, I'm Kimberly. And, it's something for people, and, 50 million people are going to see it at that time. That's a lot of people. And this is a lot of responsibility.
But you keep it real, and you make people feel real. And that's why you get the real picture, right?
Yeah, let them know that it's okay to be them.
Yes.
We'll
let your guard down,
The story is. Yeah, but we'll have to do something that reflects the story. Yes. But let's keep it the real you.
Yeah.
And then that becomes just a wonderful journey. And I've had thousands of those.
Yeah.
Thousands.
You've been completely blessed. I mean, for a person, really, you didn't know where you were going. You just literally one foot in front of the other, and let's see where the journey takes me. But you were very lucky to see opportunities and possibilities. And it wasn't like, well, can I or can't I? It was like, I don't know. Let's open the door and find out.
Exactly. And I had total faith somewhere deep in my soul, regardless of what I had been told about myself. Yeah. I knew that I was special and that I could do it.
Yes.
God was there. My subconscious was there. I believe in a great architect of the universe. I don't think that you and I were walking along and like two amoebas and we got hit by a bolt of lightning and now we're on the internet. No. That doesn't work.
We were designed. I came here by contract. Yeah. I came here thousands of years ago by contract. I gave up my body and came as a conscience, and I've been here to do the same work over and over and over again.
Yes. I hope if that's the way that I come back better than I was.
Yeah.
And I do bigger and better things for humanity.
Yes. Because quite honestly, I'm going to be vain enough to say they need us. They need women like us. They need women like us. We're kind of no nonsense. We come from a place of heart and soul. We want everyone to be the magnificent flawsomeness that they are. And we're going to not drag them or push them, but encourage them to believe in themselves and be the awesomeness that we know that they are. And
yes, and to laugh at your flaws.
That's
When
why
I
it's
slip
flawsome,
up,
right?
I get hysterical laughing.
Yes. Believe me, my kids keep me humble. They laugh at me all the time because I say things back to front, or I have these sayings, or the way I say something. They snigger all the time at me. Nice big joke, but it's okay. I keep them entertained.
There you go. What else can a mother do?
My 2-year-old grandson loves it.
Well, of course he does, because he hasn't been programmed yet.
Exactly. Exactly. We gobbledygook and blah, 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 and do everything together, and I love it. Yeah.
And it's a whole conversation, and
It
there's
is.
lots being exchanged.
Yep. Yep.
It's
I
just
won't
your
go
own
grandma's
language.
car.
Other people don't understand it because it's
No.
your language.
Yeah. And we have a wonderful rapport because we have gone beyond the language. Right. So
Yes.
yeah. And I think that's something. Let's get out of our way. Let's get out of our ego. Let's get out of our fears. Let's get out of you should have, you know, you must, you do this, and just simply discover who we are. I do the analogy of this. We're all here to discover what instrument we are, to play it in a way that we can be that soloist and inspire people, but come together in an orchestra, and each and every one of us in our strength and in harmony play in that orchestra a symphony that resonates and lifts everyone out as an invitation.
Yes, that's beautifully said.
Let's be the instrument that we are. Let's play it and play it proud, but know when to collaborate.
Play on.
Play on, play on, play on, play on. Right? Have you ever interviewed a particular musician that you just absolutely loved the music? That the music, it oozes. I know when I interview musicians, they are the instrument. It comes out of them in everything they do. And, and I can imagine that if you're capturing a musician, that instrument of who they are just oozes out of them.
Well, it was interesting because I was house photographer at Radio City for 7 years. So everybody that entertained there, I photographed. So I photographed Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, a lot of rock bands, Tony Bennett. So it was very interesting. Aretha Franklin, who sang Respect to my husband directly in the first row. Because at Radio City, the first row is like almost on the stage.
Wow.
But I used to get the first 3 songs, then I had to leave. And Tony Bennett let me sit on the top of the steps for the entire concert. And it was remarkable. What a lovely man.
When you talk grace, right? He is grace.
He just doesn't buy into it.
No.
He say, I'm a saloon singer. People try to get to me, what do you do? And I say, well, I take pictures of people. Well, what do? You photograph children, or and I say, no, people, like, well, what kind of people? Well, famous people. Oh, you're a paparazzi. No. And then they'll say, well, how do they find out about you? I mean, how do you get them to come? I say, they call me and say, Kim, we need Streisand shot, and we'd like you to go. They think about that a long time. Who can handle a particular situation?
Yes.
When I was asked to go into war, when the Berlin Wall fell, and go into Chechnya and go into the Ukraine and go into all these countries, they said, and it was funny, it was the girl who was my boss at Radio City. And she said, there's only one person that I know that can handle this. And it wasn't celebrities. It was terrorists, gangsters. Russia went into its mafia time. It was insane. But they're all people. People are people.
Yes,
whether or not they're movie stars, executives, or someone asked me, oh, Kim, please, we just had a new baby. Will you come and photograph? Sure, I'll come and photograph the baby. Of course. It doesn't matter. People are people. And if they're really smart and if they've attained great money or great wealth or great fame, they've got that under control. If not, it's going to kill them.
Yes.
Just look at the track record. Whitney Houston, lovely girl, spent time with her.
Yeah.
Fame killed her. Michael Jackson, fame killed him. Elvis, distant cousin, fame killed him. Marilyn Monroe, too sensitive. Too sensitive. She was used.
Horribly.
And not who she was. Fame killed her. So you got to get that under control. I had somebody once say something really demented to me. They said, you've really got to start acting like who you are.
And who is that meant to be?
I had to think about that for a second. I asked all the other voices in my head. And then, because a lot of these people in my position were like hoity-toity, and all their best friends were celebrities. And that's how they generated, getting around and getting more work and doing this and doing that. And, then there were the people that were just regular people like me and photographers, and they were my friends.
Yeah.
I got to shoot this, but I'll be back. Or, the writer that would come with me, and we go to, somebody really famous's house and do what we have to do. And it's just simple. But when you buy into it and think that just because I can take a photograph of a famous person makes me better than another human being is a ridiculous concept.
Yes. You're drinking your own Kool-Aid. Yeah.
Yes. To be kind and good and be the best human being that I can for the last laps, that I hopefully that God and everybody waiting for me will be very happy with me.
Well, that's why you're a door opener, because people know you're going to see the real them, that you're going to keep it real, and that you probably in their existence they're so treated as something different because of their fame. And it's really nice to have someone who sees them for who they really are, where they can let that guard down, let that facade down, and just be who they are.
I see it all the time. It's so amazing that you brought that up, because I see it all the time. And I just see them kind of like, wow, she's so cool. I'm like, don't worry about that. We'll do that later. You don't like that outfit? Then go change. No worries. I'll wait. What's the problem? I'm just, what's good for you? Are you comfortable? How are you feeling? You look, and then they respond to that. They respond. And they do. They breathe easier, because
you're taking interest in who they are, not the role they're playing.
Well, yes, because but to be famous and physically recognized, no matter where you go, is a really hard thing to be.
Yes.
And you can see how that starts to have an effect on your psyche.
Yeah.
You've got to be a very special person to be able to handle that. And it's not an easy thing to do. You can see why these superstars just go insane.
Well, the microscope is on them all the time. They can't even breathe differently without it making some sort of news. And it's like, God forbid that they should trip and fall. It's going to be, something horrific. And and of course, people love to put them up on a pedestal, but should they go, oh, did something wrong, then they love to trample on them.
Right? Oh, yes.
They lovely society. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. It is. But you know what? There's enough great people around that I think we can turn everything around.
Exactly.
And keep evolving as a caring, loving, not me, us society.
Again, my instrument for the collective. We've got to understand it isn't about us, where I abstain from being a part of it. It's about bringing the best essence of who I am to the collective for the benefit of all. Yeah.
Yes, my individuality.
Yes.
Because you don't want to get sucked into a collective.
No. But it is that instrument in the orchestra, right? And there's many different types of orchestra. We're not all under one orchestra.
That's a great metaphor.
But all of the orchestras also have the same, that respect of each other. It's not competitive. It's right. you see one of the greatest experiences I had was in Rome, just sitting at this wonderful bar with instruments sitting there, and one by one performers came in from their gigs. They grabbed a drink, put a cigarette in their mouth, and started playing. Didn't even speak to anyone else, and they all started playing collectively together and transcending music, and heavenly. They were playing their souls. They really were.
Well, yeah, that's kind of like how I try to go through every day. Is with my soul on my sleeve.
It governs me. My love is my generator. The more I love, the more my generator grows and the more love coming out of me. And my soul is my wisdom, is my guidance. And
Yes.
if I live just in my head, I'm living in my ignorance, and that's where I go wrong. I have to trust my soul, heart, and spirit. That's
Yes.
yeah.
I tell people, you trust your gut, trust your
Yes.
instinct, because the
Yes.
minute you start to intellectualize, then you're dead.
Yes. Exactly.
First impression, first thing, you feel something's wrong, get out of there
Mhm.
now.
Or you feel something's right, open that door.
There you go. Good title for a book.
Yeah, I've just written my memoir and gone through a whole load of descriptions, and I'm in the editing phase of it, and it's like, how, that the title for a book is not that easy, is it? So yeah, it's just
I
whatever
got
comes to you.
mine.
Yeah, you've got yours. Now, how do people get hold
No,
of the book?
no, it's not ready. I'm
It's
in the
not ready.
process. I'm in the process of writing. Well, The Art of Fear, you can just write to my website, to Kimberly Butler, studio manager. It's KBP studio manager at Gmail. It's up on my website,
Right.
and we can send you a book, because
Wonderful.
Amazon sold out, and we were just like, you know what? We're just gonna send it off to people that call that want a copy.
And when will
Because
it actually be kind of public again?
my memoirs,
Yep.
uh,
The art of fear.
The Art of Fear, I may I'm this is what I'm playing around with. You'll probably find this interesting. I did The Art of Fear, which is about a girl that's in a world looking for an answer, and she's alone. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
well, isn't this interesting? It's a pre-pandemic book
Mm-hmm.
of what happened during the pandemic. So what I'm
Mm,
seriously considering is The Art of Fear Part 2.
right.
It's the same photographs, but then write the diary of what happened in this city and what happened to people, good and bad, in the pandemic.
Yeah.
The loneliness, being in the graveyard, like the different shots that you'll
Yeah.
see of The Art of Fear.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm deciding on that, what I'm going to do. In the meantime, the memoirs has me really, because it's going to be huge, because there's so much.
I know.
There's so many different people, and there's so much history before me that made me, that we're just trying to figure it out. So I'm working with a specialist that's showing me how to get the chapters. What chapters are we going to do? What are the most important parts? What are we going to include in the forward? Your ancestors, your current ancestors, your current family, and then like 3 simple chapters. But there's so much. Like, what
Yes.
do you put in?
Yeah.
The Ruth Bader Ginsburg story, the Barbara Walters
Yeah.
story, the top stories
Mm-hmm.
that are still fresh in my consciousness. Because there's 10 file cabinets in my studio, that are this high, 5 drawers deep, legal size, full of stories. And they're
Time to
only
get them
this.
digitalized, love.
Oh, I got to get somebody in here to do that for
Yes.
me. Right.
Yes.
Right. That's got to be done. That's
Yeah.
got to be done. But in the meantime, that's a big life.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm like, okay, what are we going to include? Because the most important thing for me about my memoirs is to say, look, I was a kid that was abandoned by my parents, that was thrown into an orphanage where they beat the shit out of me. The first day, I still had back problems from it. They threw it off.
Mm-hmm.
They threw me off a thing, a bank. Went to school, was picked on. Here comes Vietnam and the civil rights movement simultaneously, and I'm in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get out, go to high school. I barely get out of high school, barely, and go to the guidance counselor, who says, I don't know what college will take you. And I said, well, what college will take me? She finally says, well, John Jay College. It was the best 2 years of my life, best education I ever had, best education, city school. And then when I decided what I wanted to do, I transferred to NYU. But the head of John Jay, the president, asked me to stay. He said, we need graduates like you. And now they're a powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they're a complete powerhouse. So I'm so happy for them because they taught me how to learn, which up
Yeah.
until that point, nobody had.
Mm-hmm.
Had an interdisciplinary program. So what's important to me right now is that I produce a book that says to everybody, no matter where you come from, no matter what you've been through, you can be whatever you want to be. There's nothing that stands in your way except you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yes.
My great quote is, you are your own competition.
Mm-hmm.
The day I realized that, I knew I had no problem.
Right.
All I had to do was work hard.
Yes.
And, my life has led me to meet some remarkable people, wonderful people. And I want to leave that as my legacy, that you can
Mm-hmm.
do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Because everybody told me I was a loser and I'd be nothing.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, as I said, when you come from that, I think sometimes it's better than coming from somewhere, as I said, where there's high expectations of you, because then you're not doing it for you, you're doing it for everyone else. And when nobody really, I mean, it took me a while to get there, but when nobody expects anything from you, uh, it's your own milestones, it's your own personal achievements. It's really not up to their approval anymore because they don't see you anyway, but you know.
That's right. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I know what I did. And
Mm,
I see all these young people, and you don't have to be born into wealth or privilege.
no.
You're an American, and there's a great thing about that. You can do it. All you have to
And
do is say,
y-
follow your bliss.
follow your heart, follow your conviction, listen to your intuition, and don't
And do
let
it
the
with love.
outside in.
Exactly. Don't listen to other people. Do what makes you happy.
And other people's knowledge that is shared with you, if it feels right with the gut, if it feels right with the heart, take it in. If it's conflicting with the head or it immediately causes doubt or insecurity, let it go.
Oh my God, I let it in one ear and out the other. And I just
Yeah.
smile at them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of these very dangerous, or just, people that have gotten where they've gotten through power and manipulation, whether it be a politician, a
Mm.
famous person of some sort. I mean, you know, it was a funny thing. One last story. I photographed Taylor Swift,
Mm-hmm.
and we were shooting up at Miramax, and all of a sudden his assistant started running around saying, "Harvey's coming up. Harvey's coming up," because yesterday was his sentencing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, he got life in prison. So there you
Yes.
go. Right. And because there's lots of Harveys. So they got really nervous because in retrospect, I see the whole thing now. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
was like super paranoid. I'm shooting, and he walks right in between my camera and Taylor Swift and starts talking to her. And that's when I realized, okay, this guy is a total megalomaniac,
Mm-hmm.
and he has no class. Because someone with class would say, "Excuse me, do you mind? I don't want to interrupt the shoot."
Yeah.
And then I'd say, "No problem. Come on in. Come on in. I knew you were stopping by. Love your
Mm.
movies. I was excited to meet him. I love his movies." But it turns out he's,
A jerk. Yeah.
well, he hurt a lot of people.
Oh God, did he?
Really, the psychological damage, and these people coming forward. Have you
Yes.
seen the movie She Said?
Was it She Said or Bombshell that I've seen?
She
It's,
Said. Now,
I,
Bombshell's about Ailes at
right.
Fox.
Yes. No, I haven't seen She Said yet. No.
It's great. It's the Harvey Weinstein
Right.
story. It's Ashley Judd. God bless her.
Yes.
She is the one who steps up with the name, steps up first, and then everybody follows.
Mm-hmm. It always just the one.
It's a lot of
Just
courage.
yeah, it
A lot of
does.
courage.
And you know that you're going to have everybody turn on you. But if this is where again, when you're standing tall and who you are, you know your truth, and you're not going to be suppressed by other people's fear.
Right.
And right?
Exactly. Exactly. So well said. Yes. So,
Did you
justice
say anything
comes.
to him? Did you say anything to him?
Well, they were talking about how they each had stalkers, which I find really funny because he's a stalker.
Yes.
And I said, I have a stalker. I had a stalker. People would call people would call People magazine all the time, like they'd see a picture of Britney Spears.
Right.
So they'd call, because it would say Kimberly Butler on the bottom. So they'd call People to get to Kimberly Butler to get to Britney Spears. So they'd call me, they say, do you know a so-and-so? And I'm like, no. Okay, never mind. You know, because you don't know if it's legitimate or not.
Exactly.
Because a lot of people in my position foster those relationships. They hang out with people like that to get ahead.
The entourage. Yeah.
I'm just totally uninterested in any of that.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on in the refugee camps. I want to know what's going up with this gentrification of Harlem. I want to know what's going on with the subway system in New York. I want to know what's going on in the Ukraine, and what are we doing to help our brothers and sisters world over.
Yeah.
What's going on? Let's grow up.
Yes. I'm all about like raising that goddamn consciousness. Leave your pettiness behind.
Well, that's it.
Time to grow up. Yeah.
The pandemic shook it. We got a world trauma.
Yes, that was the shake it up, the universal shake it up, right?
That's it.
For us to step up, change it up, grow up.
Everything's changing. And, I think the good will come out of this.
A lot of good is going to come out of this. I know so. I'm already seeing the changes. It's been quite extraordinary of the changes that I've seen, and I'm feeling them. And I know that we've already risen up certain more octaves, vibrationally. And we've already shifted. And this is why there's so much protesting. This is why there's so much the Celtic rune Haglas disruption. We're seeing so much disruption because they know the change is already inevitable. This is why I say you can't put the baby back in the womb. It's too late. We're out. The movement has happened. You either get with the program or you go by the way of the dinosaurs.
That's it. The dinosaurs are dying off, and it's a great time.
Yeah.
It's a great time to be alive, because I think that we'll see America come into an even greater place and catch up in a lot of things that we're behind the world on.
Yes.
And the treatment of our elderly.
Yes.
The first thing that comes to my mind, because I know what I had to do with my mom. And when you have 1 out of 10 abused in an elderly facility, this is a real problem. And then I see that, like in Scandinavia, that I believe it's Norway, they set up an Alzheimer village.
Yes, I know. Isn't it beautiful?
You see that? Everything is the same. So nobody
respectful. Yes.
Nothing changes. I'm like, how simple. How simple. How from the heart. And I said, this needs to be us.
It has to be. But as you said, it takes the shakeup. America's going through its shakeup. It's going to go through some sort of revolution.
Yes.
It's going to go through that, not like it's seen before, but a revolution nevertheless. And you're going to see the pivoting really, really happening. But it's not going to happen without protest. And who are the ones that are protesting? The ones that have lived in their little bubble for so long, and they know that somebody's got a great big huge pin about to prick that bubble, and they're running scared. And
yes, they are.
The men that have truly stepped into their power are those that are empowering women. Yes. They see the benefit of women. They want to work with women. They want to be a part of this movement because they see the common sense in it. They see the practicality in it. They also see the liberation of their own spirit and soul in it, because we're going to see men differently. Those that are still the dinosaurs that, me Tarzan, they're the ones, I'm sorry.
Bye.
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 Yeah. Go marry somebody 40 years younger because you got a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly.
And step aside and take her with you because she's an enemy of the movement.
Right, exactly.
Don't like enemies of the movement.
No.
I don't like them.
No.
They are a big problem, and they need to be cut down a couple notches too. So
isn't it wonderful when we
people for the I'm saying when we start realizing in teaching our children to look on the inside, to give someone a chance to look on the inside of somebody and not judge them for their material outside, their shell, that's when there's a shift. That is a big shift. And when a woman uses her good looks and her sexuality on Instagram commercials, we are inundated with it constantly. And it's got to stop.
And when you've got these men strutting along, I call it small penis syndrome because they just, that's all they're governed by, and the He-Man type thing. But when you look at the Oscars and you look at the award season, everywhere, everywhere, anywhere, all at once. The fact that that movie won, the fact that movie showed such royalty and kind of conflict and discovery, in all that it did. And then you look at Brandon Fraser, who was really ostracized with what he went through,
Yep.
right? He went
Yep.
through a hell of a lot of persecution through somebody there. And you watch them be triumphant. And you look at Viola Davis, who's never been afraid. Like in,
Yep.
the murder How to Kill Something, the murder show that she had. She's
Yes.
never been afraid to show her royalty, the no
Yes.
makeup, the hair
Yes.
and the whatever. She's never been afraid to show her vulnerability. But I also love the Helen Mirrens. And I
Yes.
love the Judi Denches, and I love that they are real people. And you see the beauty of who they are because it comes from the inside,
Exactly. It
right?
comes through the
It
exactly.
transcends age, it transcends everything.
Exactly.
They are
Exactly.
beautiful souls, right?
Right. That's it. That's it. And there has to be more emphasis on that, not organized religion, but
Yeah,
what does your soul have to say? Not what the book that somebody told you to read has to say.
yeah.
What does your soul say? And come from a place of love.
I
And
wrote,
when you encounter baddies, then you got to do what you got to do.
yes,
But first give everybody a chance first.
yes, exactly. Um, and it's okay to dismiss people. It's okay to shut people out of your life. We've seen how violence is used in everything, which provides nothing, no resolution, just death and misery. What we need to see is actually love, if the love vibrator will actually penetrate their exterior, their exterior shell. If not, um, this is my boundary. You can't cross it, right? Because until you step up into the love consciousness, you don't belong here.
That's right.
And it is up to you. That's your journey to take. A lot of people are
Right.
lazy. A lot of people are fearful. A lot of people are just complacent.
They don't realize
Or
that
they don't realize. The
they run
ones
a
that don't
switchover
realize are beginning
someday.
to waken up, but the others are still in their complacency, right? So
Yes.
we can only
Yes.
help those that are willing to help themselves.
That's exactly right.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
exactly right. Well, you've just been marvelous. My consciousness has been expanded by this conversation. There's so much to think about. I can't wait to watch it later
Well,
and just see my reactions and listen to you again.
I'm right back at you, my darling. I mean, I was so excited to do this show with you because you are an extraordinary woman. And it's not just about, um, and right from the word go when you spoke on that network by Deb Drummond, it was it wasn't just what you were saying, how many people you related to or this or that. It was just the sheer essence of you that because you are so real in who you are, why you are, what you're doing, and what you want other people to feel. That is your door opener. That's why people feel comfortable with you because they know God can come down. I can be myself. I can be real. I am safe in this person's realm. And then you see the truth in who they are, and you're going to reflect that truth through the camera. And I felt that and I saw that in that talk that you did. And that's why I was so excited to interview you.
Thank you so much. It's been a delight, a real delight. I hope we can visit again.
Yes, most certainly. When you've got the next books, you've got to come back and share all of those. But folks, it's KimberlyButler.com, BUTLER.com. Instagram, Kimberly Butler
It's
Photograph.
yeah, you can just go Kimberly Butler photo, but go to my
Uh,
site,
yes, go to a site.
kimberlybutler.com.
Yeah, Kimberly Butler 3 on Facebook, Twitter, DA Kimbo, and then Kimberly Buckley YC for LinkedIn. And also you're saying that if people reach out to you for the book, that you might
Yeah,
be able
we'll
to even
just
get a
send
copy
it
for
from
them.
here. Yeah, Jeff Bezos will have to do without his cut. I'm sorry.
Right, right. And
But
the next book. you know, the next book, you've got to come back. We've got to discuss more of that. I could talk to you forever. I wish that I was in New York and I could just sit down with a good bottle of wine
I'd
and
love
we
that.
could just talk
I'd
and they
love
would love
that.
it.
If you come out, you have to let me photograph you too.
Oh gosh, well, yeah, you need a few lenses for that.
No. It's not about that at all. That's what we just discussed.
I know.
It's all in the eyes and the smile. I've already got you down.
It was actually funny when somebody persuaded, because the first 5 years I just did audio, and then somebody persuaded me to do video. And I said, well, who wants to see this old bag on lens? And then the voice from the inside said, it's not about how you look, it's about the content you put out. Exactly. So I had to correct myself.
Exactly. No, you're terrific. And I wish you all the best. And I'm going to be a regular fan now, and I'm not going to miss a show.
Oh, wonderful. You've got a lot to listen to, the 16 to 24 a month.
Wow. I don't know where I'll start. Maybe at the back with mine and go forward.
Yeah, well, there's only 3,000 of them up there.
That's incredible. Wow.
There are some awesome people in the world making a difference, and you're one of them. And thank you so much for coming and sharing. And thank you for all the work and dedication that you've done, because you may have come from an exorbitant, extravagant history, but you are continuing it on, and you've left your own mark, and you're leaving your own mark, and yeah, you've added to that that historical mark, and you will be remembered because of it.
Well, thank you. I want to help as many people as I can before it's my time.
Yeah, your time is a long way away.
Fantastic.
Yeah, a lot more to do, love. Yes. A lot more to do. We've got to be around for at least another 25 years to actually see the transition that we're going through right now. I want to be able to look at it and go, I can leave now. They're in a good place.
That's true. That's very, very true. Well, God bless you.
You too, my darling.
The universe bless you. And everybody that's watching, do what you love, what makes you happy.
Yes.
And then you'll never work a day in your life.
No, it's really that simple. It really is that simple. Find that passion.
Find that passion.
Folks, you've learned so much here today. This is a show you need to go back and listen to. Have a podcast party. Everybody listen to it and have a discussion afterwards. There's so much to take in here.
Write to me.
Please write to her.
Yes, on my site. You can contact, it'll give my email and you can write to me. Please do.
Yeah, please do. Please do. And look at all the work that she's done. A true example of just being yourself and the willingness to open a door to see what's on the other side, because you never know where it's going to take you. So until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Find all of our shows on selfdiscoverymedia.com under podcasts or selfdiscoverymedia/shows. And for all our current shows, go to What's New. We are supported by you, the audience. You'll see a nice big shiny blue button for one-time donations, or follow us on Patreon and you will be able to support us there. We enjoy bringing you such wisdom. And the next show will be up in just a moment.